Chapter 257. Lin Yuan still had to store a large batch of rare wood. In the future, as long as the wood in the Spirit Lock spatial zone was completely jade textured, Lin Yuan could take them out and place them in this beetle-shaped diamond face storage box. Then, he would place a new batch of ordinary wood on the parasol wood shelf. This way, there would not be any waste in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan already had plans for those precious fays that would transform in an environment with a high concentration of spirit qi. The purchase with no loss store had always only sold silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish on sale. Now, he could add another type for buyers to choose from. Lin Yuan believed that when these fays, which could only transform in a high concentration of spirit qi, appeared in his purchase with no loss store, at that time, people would think of all sorts of ways to snatch them. However, Lin Yuan did not intend to use Radiance dollars to trade for such fays. Instead, he planned to exchange for some spiritual ingredients that rarely appeared in the rare life form pavilion. For example, the day and night spirit silver. Although such spiritual ingredients were also sold in the rare life form pavilion, it was not so easy to purchase them. Otherwise, he would not have thought of using any kind of bronze/epic phase to post a trade message in his purchase with no loss store at that time. Lin Yuan went on Star Web and ordered a huge batch of mid-grade energy ores under Zhou Jessen's dumbfounded expression. Lin Yuan first mailed his beetle-shaped diamond phase storage box to Zhou Jessen through Ostrich Logistics. Then, Zhou Jessen would fill the beetle-shaped diamond phase storage box and mail it to Lin Yuan through Ostrich Logistics. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to transport such a large batch of energy ores through Ostrich Logistics. Then, Lin Yuan spent nearly 100 Radiance dollars in a Star Web wood store to purchase a large batch of precious wood. The wood that Lin Yuan had prepared previously was not considered very expensive. Apart from red sandalwood, which was considered precious, the other wood could only be considered relatively ordinary. The more precious the wood, the higher the price of the jade-textured wood. Therefore, Lin Yuan only chose 5 types of precious wood in the Star Web wood store. Among them were yellow rosewood, chicken wing wood, ebony, green elm, and golden nanmu. These 5 types of completely jade-textured wood were currently the most expensive on the market. Since he wanted to integrate the resources, he naturally had to choose the completely jade-textured wood that was relatively expensive in the market to nurture. Of course, Lin Yuan had also purchased a few large pieces of high-class agarwood. After these agarwood trees were completely jade-textured, he planned to use them as consumables in his mansion. Lin Yuan chose a fei that was very useful to creation masters when there was a high concentration of spirit qi that would undergo a metamorphosis. This fei was a kind of succulent plant, and the lowest grade of this succulent plant was at bronze. This kind of spirit item was called silk pearls. The silk pearls were the most unpopular among the bronze meaty fays. The bronze silk bead might be a healing type fey, but its healing ability was too special. The string of pearls would use the dew produced by the plant to drip on the target's wounds to heal injuries. Although the ability looked similar to other healing type fays, the string of pearls could heal the target's wounds. Although the ability looked similar to other healing type fays, when the string of pearls juice dripped on the wounds, it would be accompanied by unbearable pain. Therefore, even if healing-type spirit qi professionals were in short supply, if they only contracted a healing-type fey like the string of pearls, they would immediately become the most unpopular existence among all healing-type spirit qi professionals. Many teams would rather wait for other healing-type spirit qi professionals or bring along a support-type spirit qi professional than to endure the bone-deep pain after being injured. However, the bronze succulent plant, the string of pearls, would transform into a new kind of fey, the flower brocade pearl, in a high-purity spirit qi environment. The flower brocade pearl would still produce dew, but it could be placed in the spirit fluid made from multiple spiritual ingredients, increasing the speed of the spiritual ingredients fusion. Of course, this speed increase would not improve the creation master's standard. However, it could shorten the time it took for the creation master to concoct the spirit fluid. When concocting the spirit fluid, a creation master had to be highly focused, and a slight distraction would cause the spirit fluid concoction to fail. To a certain extent, the flower brocade pearl could shorten the time it took for the creation master to concoct the spirit fluid. It was the same as slightly reducing the failure rate. It was not easy for a creation master to successfully concoct a spirit fluid, and it would often require a lot of effort. In fact, they would need to fail several times and waste a lot of spiritual ingredients before they could succeed once. Therefore, any creation master that laid eyes on the flower brocade pearls would do everything they could to purchase them. If there was anyone in this world who had the easiest money to earn, it would definitely be the wealthy creation masters. Lin Yuan had chosen the string of pearls because he wanted it to transform into the flower brocade pearl under the high-purity spirit qi concentration. One of the reasons was that the flower brocade pearl's appearance would increase the success rate of creation masters concocting spirit fluids. It would also allow more spirit qi professionals to have the opportunity to heal phase and recover their damaged roots. The Radiance Federation's creation master resources were extremely scarce. Even if a creation master's success rate in concocting the spirit fluid was slightly increased, they would be able to spare more time to change the fates of spirit qi professionals with damaged roots and earn more radiance dollars. At the same time, it would also allow Lin Yuan to harvest more creation masters' leaks. Another reason was that although the string of pearls was a bronze fei, they were very small. It was because of this reason that Lin Yuan could increase the number of string of pearls in the limited space in the spirit lock spatial zone. The bronze string of pearls were very cheap, and many star web stores had chosen to carry out promotions for the bronze succulent plant string of pearls. Lin Yuan had bought 1,000 bronze string of pearls and only spent 800 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan couldn't help but lament that the bronze string of pearls were simply too cheap. However, when the bronze string of pearls transformed into flower brocade pearls under the high concentration spirit qi concentration, the price would be hard to estimate. Fays like the flower brocade pearls were simply too rare and rarely appeared. Most of them were exchanged with other items, so there was no specific price to refer to. After all, creation masters would never look at the price when buying things. If they wanted to, they could just increase the price. Who asked creation masters to be rich and capricious? Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of The Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 258. The water-type and chi-type spiritual ingredients to induce the elemental shellfish to evolve were very easy to buy. As long as the elemental shellfish were induced by a single element spiritual ingredient in a pure spirit qi concentration, they would quickly mutate. After purchasing this batch of resources, Lin Yuan received the large amount of resources he had purchased more than an hour later. Lin Yuan chose 100 of the 1,000 silk beads and placed them in the spirit lock spatial zone. Then, he placed a portion of the large amount of wood on the shelves carved from parasol wood, filling up 2 shelves. The spirit lock spatial zone was now fully utilized by Lin Yuan. Next, Lin Yuan had to induce 2 of the 4 elemental shellfish to evolve into aquamarine elemental shellfish and 2 into celestine elemental shellfish. At the same time, Lin Yuan placed the crystal eggshell with the floating island whale's green and white patterns in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan sensed it and found that the floating island whale's elemental eggshell had not absorbed the high-purity spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone. He knew that this was because pure water and air elements were still needed to be added at this time. Only then would the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale absorb the high-purity spirit qi, water, and air elements together. Only then could the floating island whale hatch bit by bit. Lin Yuan could not help but think that given the floating island whale's uniqueness, if it had not been brought out of the deep sea by the Gao family and met him, it probably would not have hatched. The spirit qi concentration in the depths of the sea was very high, and it could satisfy the ordinary island whale's spirit qi needs. At the same time, the seawater contained a lot of water elements. After a very long time, the ordinary island whale would absorb enough spirit qi and water elements and break out of the crystal eggshell. However, the floating island whale's incubation required the addition of air elements in addition to spirit qi and water elements. There were no air elements in the deep sea, so although the floating island whale had transformed into a more powerful life form, it was still a floating island whale. Perhaps the original intention of nature was not to allow this mutation to continue. Lin Yuan took the 4 elemental shellfish that had awakened from their infancy stage and circulated the spiritual power in his body to quickly inject spirit qi into the elemental shellfish. When the elemental shellfish reached Elite 9/Epic, Lin Yuan stopped the infusion of spirit qi. Then, he took out the water elemental spiritual ingredient, which was a very ordinary bronze seaweed that grew in the ocean. Under the influence of the high-purity spiritual energy and the fragments of the bronze-rank aquatic plant that contained water element, 2 of the elemental shellfish's originally white shells suddenly had dark blue veined patterns. These deep blue patterns were like the waves of the sea. At the same time, the elemental shellfish with deep blue wave-like patterns opened its shell, and the flesh inside gradually turned light blue. Finally, when the shells of the 2 elemental shellfish turned light blue, Lin Yuan knew that these 2 elemental shellfish had mutated into aquamarine elemental shellfish. Then, he enhanced them from Elite 9/Epic to Elite X/Epic. Previously, he had not upgraded the elemental shellfish to Elite X because he was afraid that it would evolve on its own when it reached Elite X in the Spirit Lock spatial zone with such a high spirit qi concentration. However, now that the elemental shellfish had mutated into the aquamarine elemental shellfish, he no longer needed to worry. This was because the Elite X/Epic aquamarine elemental shellfish would only evolve again under the influence of water elemental spiritual ingredients. As long as Lin Yuan did not provide the aquamarine elemental shellfish with water elemental spiritual ingredients, it would never evolve from Elite X/Epic to bronze. Similarly, Lin Yuan also used very ordinary gas-type spiritual ingredients to induce the other 2 elemental shellfish to mutate into the Celestine elemental shellfish. The Elite X/Epic Celestine elemental shellfish's shell and flesh were pure cyan, and there were storm patterns on the shell. At that moment, Lin Yuan had evolved the 4 elemental shellfish into 2 Elite X/Epic aquamarine elemental shellfish and 2 Elite X/Epic Celestine elemental shellfish. The aquamarine elemental shellfish and Celestine elemental shellfish were now the size of a bowl. Lin Yuan saw that the aquamarine elemental shellfish and Celestine elemental shellfish were absorbing the inexhaustible high-purity spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In a short while, the aquamarine elemental shellfish produced an aquamarine thumb-sized pearl. The Celestine elemental shellfish also produced a thumb-sized Celestine pearl. Lin Yuan placed the 2 aquamarine elemental shellfish and the 2 Celestine elemental shellfish beside the crystal eggshell gestating the floating island whale. Whether it was the aquamarine elemental shellfish or the Celestine elemental shellfish, as long as the next elemental pearl was produced, the previous elemental pearl would be pushed out of the shell. It landed on the floating island whale's crystal eggshell. With the aquamarine elemental pearl that contained pure water elements and the Celestine elemental pearl that contained pure qi elements, the floating island whale began to truly absorb the high-concentration spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. This time, Lin Yuan finally witnessed what was called a whale swallowing all things. The floating island whale's single breath of spirit qi almost absorbed all the spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If the spirit pool was not like a bottomless pit that could decompose energy ores, as long as the spirit qi concentration in the Spirit Lock spatial zone did not reach the Spirit Lock spatial zone's limit, it would immediately decompose the energy ores to produce spirit qi. It was probably not enough to maintain the Spirit Lock spatial zone's spirit qi consumption. However, Lin Yuan had a diamond face storage box's mid-grade energy ores, which could completely support such consumption. After the floating island whale's crystal eggshell breathed in and out a few times, he could feel a hazy consciousness forming in the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale at that moment. Lin Yuan let the amber button-shaped source-type source sand at his cuff precipitate a feather formed by the day and night spirit silver. He took the feather formed by the day and night spirit silver and slashed it across his palm. Then, he placed his palm on the floating island whale's crystal eggshell. The consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell seemed to have found something and absorbed the warm blood flowing out of Lin Yuan's palm. Lin Yuan could feel that the consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell was very lonely. However, after finding his blood in the lonely search, it was as if it had found its closest kin. After absorbing enough of his blood, the consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell emitted a childlike emotion. Lin Yuan smiled slightly. At this point, this floating island whale truly belonged to him. After exiting the spirit lock spatial zone, it was almost 3 in the morning. Lin Yuan lay on the bed, hugging Genius and Chimey, and fell into a deep sleep in the warm bed. The next morning, the sky was bright, and Lin Yuan opened his eyes. After having breakfast and saying goodbye to Wen Yu and Hu Quan, Lin Yuan embarked on a journey of training. The Moon Empress was feeding the platinum spirit siphon goldfish in the lotus pond in the inner palace. She looked at the lotus flowers in the pond and muttered, "I wonder how many diamond/legend lotuses in this pool will be able to comprehend the willpower rune and evolve into fantasy breeds after my spirit liquid is poured." Then, the Moon Empress looked at the lotus pond and shouted softly, "Listen up, all of you. When spring comes, the lotus pond in the rear palace will only be planted with suzerain tier lotuses. Those that haven't reached the suzerain tier will be moved to the garden in front of the palace." These peak-stage diamond lotuses of various colors had already developed spiritual intelligence. When they heard the Moon Empress words, the lotuses and lotus pods swayed. At this time, Xian Yu walked to the back hall and said in a clear voice, "Moon Empress, young lord's assistant, Wen Yu, has come to the Radiant Moon Palace to seek an audience with the Moon Empress. I wonder if the Moon Empress wishes to see Wen Yu." If it was in the past, Wen Yu wouldn't even have the chance to seek an audience with the Moon Empress. Wen Yu wouldn't even have the chance to speak to Xian Yu. Moreover, Xian Yu had taken the initiative to ask the Moon Empress for Wen Yu's opinion. Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress didn't stop feeding the fish pellets one by one into the lotus pond. Instead, she said, "Bring Wen Yu to the rear palace to see me." Hearing this, Xian Yu acknowledged the order and left. At the same time, Xian Yu thought to herself. She didn't expect the Moon Empress to ask Wen Yu to seek an audience with the rear palace. The rear palace wasn't a place that ordinary people could enter as they wished. Even Class 5 creation masters like Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme wouldn't dare to take a step into the rear palace without the Moon Empress' permission. Wen Yu's identity had changed because of Lin Yuan's choice to choose her as his assistant. The lotus pond was full of dancing lotuses, and the fish were playing in the lotus pond, causing ripples. Wen Yu was very nervous and was trying hard not to tremble. This was the first time Wen Yu had the chance to face the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress looked at Wen Yu calmly and asked in a cold voice, "Why do you seek an audience with me?" Wen Yu's eyes slowly changed from apprehension to incomparably firm. "Moon Empress, I want to become stronger." The Moon Empress didn't comment. "Why?" Wen Yu gritted her teeth and said stubbornly. "Moon Empress, I don't want to become a useless person by Lord Lin Yuan's side." Lin Yuan was walking on the royal capital streets and holding his mobile phone, preparing to book a flying fei. Suddenly, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice entered his ears. "Lin Yuan, where do you plan to go for your first training trip?" Lin Yuan asked without any hesitation. "I plan to go to the Dimensional Rift's interior to train." Baidu read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 259. Lin Yuan had already made plans for his training outside the Endless Forest. If he still went to the Endless Forest to harvest, he would only obtain some relatively rare and low-grade feis. As a creation master, it was easy for feis to have a favorable impression of him, so the danger he could encounter in the Endless Forest was very limited. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, even if he encountered a platinum fei, the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand would be able to put up a fight. In fact, Lin Yuan could even control the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand to kill low-grade platinum feis effortlessly. The source-type source sand's abilities developed in all aspects. Defense, attack, control, all of these abilities were well-rounded. However, ever since Lin Yuan had promoted the fantasy breed source sand to gold and enhanced its exclusive skill metal consume manifestation twice, the source sand's defense had been greatly improved. If Lin Yuan let the source sand precipitate the feathers formed by the day and night spirit silver to form 4 wings, the 4 wings on his back would spread out. The 4 wings on Lin Yuan's back opened up, and he just needed to circulate his spiritual power to transform the black wings of slaughter into white wings of protection. The white wings of protection could withstand an all-out attack from a platinum fae. However, if he resisted an all-out attack from a platinum fae, he would have to consume a lot of spiritual power to let the day and night spirit silver's feathers release the attack damage to the surrounding environment. Moreover, the source sand's exclusive skill, Sand Granule Spirit Acceptance, hid the heart-penetrating iron line, which was equivalent to a Platinum 3/Flawless Fae. Under a sudden all-out attack, few Platinum Faes could withstand it. Moreover, he was a creation master in the Endless Forest, and he was not willing to slaughter Faes wantonly. Therefore, since Lin Yuan wanted to experience a life and death training, there was no place more suitable than the inside of the dimensional rift. Upon hearing that, the mother of Bloodbath replied, "There are a total of 4 types of dimensional rifts in the vicinity of the royal capital that are currently open and under control. Have you decided which one you want to train in?" There were a total of 5 types of dimensional rifts. Apart from a large number of dimensional faes, there were also some spiritual ingredients that could only be produced in the dimensional rifts. In the hands of creation masters, these spiritual ingredients were used to concoct spirit fluids to evolve faes and improve their quality. Therefore, near every major city in the Radiance Federation, there was a dimensional rift entrance that had been controlled by the Radiance Federation officials. These controlled dimensional rifts were good places for the Radiance Federation's younger generation to train. At the same time, it was also a good place for adventurers who accepted missions to harvest spiritual materials. In these controlled dimensional rifts, even if one couldn't find the spiritual ingredients in the dimensional rifts, killing some dimensional lifeforms and obtaining their flesh would be considered a considerable income. However, among the 5 types of dimensional rifts, only 4 were controlled by the Radiance Federation. The method to control a dimensional rift was to have multiple King-class expert squads cleanse a Class 3-dimensional rift. He then took 2 of the 3 source-type items produced by the Class 3-dimensional rift, leaving only 1. The remaining source-type item would maintain the dimensional rift's opening. Under such circumstances, the strength of the dimensional lifeforms in a Class 3-dimensional rift would decrease due to the decrease in source-type items. Each open dimensional rift was actually like a transit station. Outside the transit station was the human's real world, and on the other side was the dimensional lifeform's world. The area inside the dimensional rift was very large. When there was only 1 source-type item left in a Class 3-dimensional rift, it was equivalent to closing the gateway to the dimensional lifeform world. Therefore, the dimensional lifeforms that emerged from the other world in the controlled Class 3-dimensional rift could only maintain the standard of pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts. The 4 types of dimensional rifts controlled by the Radiance Federation were the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift, the Abyss Dimensional Rift, the Swamp Dimensional Rift, and the Underground Dimensional Rift. The 5th type of dimensional rift was uncontrollable by humans. This was because the 5th type of dimensional rift only opened in the ocean, and it was the Water World Dimensional Rift. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "Let's go train in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. Let's go to the Abyss Dimensional Rift to train." The lifeforms in the Abyss Dimensional Rift have the strongest individual strength and are most suitable for honing combat skills. The Alien Insect Dimensional Rift could be said to be Lin Yuan's old friend. The Alien Insect Dimensional Rift had always been said to be the strongest among the dimensional rifts that opened on land. This was because the number of insects that gushed out of the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift was far greater than the Abyss Dimensional Rift, the Swamp Dimensional Rift, and the Underground Dimensional Rift. However, the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift was nothing to Lin Yuan's source-type lifeform, Red Thorn, as long as Red Thorn had the chance to attack. Then the boundless insect sea would not be that big of a threat. Especially after Red Thorn became stronger, the sea of flowers that it spawned would also become more powerful. The sea of flowers spawned by Red Thorn would also be more harmful to those low-grade alien insects. As long as these low-grade alien insects entered the sea of flowers, they would immediately become fertilizer for Red Thorn. Among the 4 types of dimensional rifts, the swamp dimensional rift was the most unsuitable for training. This was because there were all kinds of strange marsh lifeforms hidden in the swamp dimensional rift. Most of the lifeforms in the swamp dimensional rift were highly toxic. In the muddy swamps of the swamp dimensional rift, there might be a deadly, venomous dimensional life form hidden somewhere. Most of the underground dimensional rifts were filthy and ugly underground lifeforms. Apart from the water world dimensional rift, the Earth dimensional rift was currently the least explored dimensional rift by humans. This was because there was almost no light in the underground dimensional rift, and the deeper one went, the darker it would be. Therefore, only some spirit chi professionals who had contracted phase with illumination functions would have the capital to explore the underground dimensional rift. The underground dimensional rift had an abundance of metals and spiritual ingredients. It was just like the day and night spirit silver that Lin Yuan had previously allowed the source sand to devour. It had been excavated from the underground dimensional rift. This was also the reason why the day and night spirit silver was rare and expensive. As for the abyss dimensional rift, it was mostly filled with extremely powerful abyssal demons. There were many types of demons in the abyss dimensional rift. Demons were also divided into grades like the alien insects. However, demons of the same grade would mostly have different abilities. The alien insect dimensional rifts were the strongest among the abyss dimensional rifts, the swamp dimensional rifts, and the underground dimensional rifts because of their numbers. Among the 4 types of dimensional rifts that opened on land, the abyss dimensional rift had the least number of dimensional lifeforms. However, the genetic model of dimensional lifeforms like the abyssal demons was relatively complex. Compared to other dimensional lifeforms from other dimensional rifts of the same grade, their individual strength was much stronger. Furthermore, many of the demons in the abyss dimensional rift were adept at using flames. The flames used by the demons in the abyss dimensional rift had withering characteristics and were extremely damaging to plant-type phase. The mother of Bloodbath muttered to himself for a moment, and that strange yet pleasant voice echoed in Lin Yuan's ears again. If you are going to the Abyss Dimensional Rift to train, the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift outside the Royal Capital is more suitable for you. The Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift outside the Royal Capital originally had 3 source-type items, but there is only 1 left now. Only Class 4 demons will appear in the Dimensional Rift, and the strongest Class 4 demon will only be equivalent to a Pinnacle Platinum Fae. The danger level is similar to that of a Pinnacle Class 2 Dimensional Rift, and it is very suitable for you to undergo life and death training. You can go all out and hone your combat skills. When your life is in danger, I will protect you. Lin Yuan was a little curious as to why the mother of Bloodbath, who usually did not speak much, suddenly spoke so much this time. Her attitude towards him had also changed quite a bit compared to before. Before Lin Yuan could think more, the mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice echoed again. However, there are still 2 months before the active period of the dimensional rifts. At that time, the Radiance Federation officials will seal these Class 3 dimensional rifts that are controlled by the Royal Capital. Therefore, you have less than 2 months left to train in this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Lin Yuan nodded and immediately ordered a gold flying fae, broad-winged gray swallow. Lin Yuan rode on the broad-winged gray swallow's back and headed toward the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift not far from the Royal Capital. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 260. When the mother of Bloodbath had experienced the world cleansing and evolved from Suzerain/Myth I to Myth 2, it had known of Lin Yuan's strength. At that time, the mother of Bloodbath had not thought too much about it. However, when it recalled Lin Yuan's strength, it was shocked. In the mother of Bloodbath's opinion, even if Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, it was too shocking for him to have such strength at this age. Therefore, the mother of Bloodbath had recommended Lin Yuan to train in the controlled Class 3-dimensional rift. Lin Yuan sat on the gold broad-winged gray swallow's back and faced the late autumn morning wind with his eyes closed to rest. The gold broad-winged gray swallow's speed could be ranked in the top 3 among the gold wind-type faes that could be reserved in the Royal Capital. Although the gold broad-winged gray swallow was inferior to the platinum divine travel black swallow, it was much more comfortable than the Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow while taking into account its flying speed. At least when Lin Yuan sat on the gold broad-winged gray swallow's back, he would not feel his butt resting on it. The controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift outside the royal capital was not considered far from the royal capital. The gold broad-winged gray swallow only needed to fly for 2 to 3 hours to reach the location of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Lin Yuan got off the gold broad-winged gray swallow and looked at the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. He could not help but sigh. At that moment, there were many vendors at the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. These vendors were selling daily necessities. This scene reminded Lin Yuan of Millstone Town. However, Millstone Town had experienced close to 100 years of hardships and had already become a stable gathering place. Many spirit chi professionals had settled in Millstone Town for generations. However, although the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift looked similar to Millstone Town's market, it could not be maintained for long. However, if they wanted to maintain a business in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance, they would not be able to do so for long. After about every decade, the Dimensional Rift would enter an active phase. Once the Dimensional Rifts became active, Dimensional Rifts would open one after another all over the Radiance Federation in the next year. The first half of the year was fine, as there were relatively few dimensional rifts. However, in the second half of the year, the frequency of these active dimensional rifts would increase. In the Radiance Federation's history, there was even a Class 4 dimensional rift that had opened during the active phase of the dimensional rifts. The Class 6 dimensional lifeforms in the Class 4 dimensional rift had the strength of a suzerain fae. Every time the dimensional rift was active, the Radiance Federation would enter a state of war preparation. This year was filled with danger, but it was also filled with opportunities. This was because the active phase of the Dimensional Rift every 10 years would contribute a large number of source-type items. However, for controlled Class 3 dimensional rifts, during the active phase of the Dimensional Rift, the only remaining source-type item had to be taken out. He would then destroy the controlled Class 3 dimensional rift. Otherwise, during the period of the Dimensional Rift riot, this originally controlled Class 3 dimensional rift might very well evolve into a Class 4 dimensional rift. At that time, it would truly become a natural disaster. For controlled Class 3 dimensional rift entrances like the Radiance Federation, the Guild Alliance would set up branches. Here, Spirit Chi professionals could form teams and even accept missions related to the Abyss Dimensional Rift's spiritual ingredient collection. The Abyss Dimensional Rift did not produce any particularly precious spiritual ingredients. Even if there were, most of them were fire-attributed spiritual materials, and were relatively simple. However, there was a special flame in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. This special flame was very magical. As long as spirit chi was injected into it, it would keep burning. This flame was rather useful for some lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. For example, some spirit craftsmen, blacksmiths, and other lifestyle class spirit chi professionals all needed this special flame. In fact, the Chef Supreme, one of the Radiance Federation's 5 Class 5 creation masters, was holding a special flame that was said to be a fusion of several kinds of Class 4 Abyss dimensional rifts. After these special flames fused with each other, they would form a brand new flame. The Chef Supreme used this flame to cook delicacies that could help fays improve their quality and quickly evolve. At the same time, it could also restore the fays' damaged roots. Lin Yuan noticed that many people were pointing at him and discussing something. He tilted his ear and listened carefully. How many times have we seen this silver-masked guy this week? If not 20, there are at least 10. Big brother, can you not use this week? Today is only Tuesday. Can't you just say that there are at least 10 on Monday? This silver-masked kid isn't professional enough. He isn't even wearing black clothes. This is the most unprofessional person I have seen. However, the silver mask on his face is much more exquisite than others. Lin Yuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm the worst person to pretend to be myself? With that thought in mind, Lin Yuan suddenly froze for a moment. Why did I use the word pretend? I am already one. Lin Yuan didn't choose a team like the previous time when he went to the endless forest for the wild harvest. This time, after Lin Yuan verified his identity, he entered the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance and entered the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. After entering the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan realized that the inside of the Dimensional Rift was much more prosperous than the outside. The entrance was like a large camp that sold some of the necessities in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. In the Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan could feel that the temperature here was at least 30 degrees Celsius higher than the outside world. The temperature outside the royal capital was 15 degrees Celsius, but the temperature in this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was close to 50 degrees Celsius and had a sulfuric smell. This scorching heat made Lin Yuan feel uncomfortable. However, Lin Yuan didn't care about this scorching heat at that moment. Instead, when no one was paying attention, an amber button-shaped crystal object that was less than the size of a bottle cap fell to the ground at Lin Yuan's cuff. This amber button-shaped crystal turned into a wisp of fine sand and drilled into the Abyss Dimensional Rift's purplish-black soil. The source-type source sand was only instinctive and didn't need Lin Yuan to consume spiritual power to control it. Therefore, Lin Yuan simply let the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand freely create sand in the soil under his feet in the direction he was heading. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly felt someone gently tugging at his sleeve. Lin Yuan turned around and realized it was a young girl who was a few years younger than Chu Ci. The young girl's skin was a little red and had some small freckles. However, she had an infectious and innocent smile on her face. Her big round eyes were like juicy black grapes. At that moment, the little girl saw Lin Yuan looking at her, so she handed over the ice blue grass in her hand and said, "Lin Yuan, you're a little girl. Big brother, you like brother He too, right? Little Zao likes it too. Here's an ice mist grass for big brother. I hope big brother won't be bullied by those evil demons." Lin Yuan looked at the little girl who handed him the ice mist grass and squatted down to touch the little girl's raised ahog. "Zao, why did you give big brother the ice mist grass?" Lin Yuan looked at the ahog on the little girl's head and could not help but think of Chu Ci. Chu Ci always had a ahog on her head that liked to stand up. When he saw that this little girl's skin had a trace of redness, Lin Yuan knew that this little girl must have been living in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift for a long time. The redness of the skin was the result of staying in a hot environment for a long time. Fays like the ice mist grass were very common in the outside world, and the price was close to 100 Federation dollars. The ice mist herb was a very ordinary normal fay. All it could do was release some icy mist to lower the temperature of the surrounding environment. Upon hearing that, the little girl revealed a big smile and said, "That's right. Big brother He is little Zao's idol, so little Zao gave big brother an ice mist grass. Little Zao only gave others a blade of grass." Lin Yuan was a little surprised. It turned out that this little girl called little Zao was his fan. However, Lin Yuan felt a little strange. "Little Zao, why do you give the leaves of the ice mist grass to everyone who comes in?" Hearing that, little Zao said happily. It was Mommy who asked little Zao to do this. Mommy said that those uncles, aunties, big brothers, and big sisters who came to the dimensional rift would beat up those baddies, which would reduce the number of baddies. Only then can Mummy bring little Zao here to bring some delicious food to eldest uncle, eldest aunt, eldest brother, and eldest sister. Only then can little Zao eat the granulated ice Mummy made every day. Mummy said. At this point, Lin Yuan saw the girl named little Zao pondering for a moment. Then, little Zao seemed to have thought of something, and her eyes lit up. Mommy said this is called gratitude. When Lin Yuan saw this girl called little Zao's innocent smile, the face behind the mask also revealed an extremely sunny smile. This girl called little Zao's words gently caressed Lin Yuan's heart. This simple sentence seemed to shine with a radiant light. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 261. Lin Yuan rubbed little Zao's head and was preparing to stand up. Just as Lin Yuan was about to stand up, he suddenly felt a prying gaze from the side. This gaze wasn't the gaze of an ordinary passerby. Instead, this gaze was concealing a faintly discernible probing and sizing him up. Lin Yuan followed the direction of the gaze and turned his head. He saw an inconspicuous middle-aged man that didn't have any presence in the crowd sizing him up. When Lin Yuan suddenly turned his head, the middle-aged man was startled. It was obvious that he didn't expect Lin Yuan to suddenly turn around. The middle-aged man instantly concealed the probing expression on his face and laughed heartily as he walked over. "Hey! Young man, you are also acting as black, right? There are plenty of adventurers wearing silver masks that enter the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift every day, but it seems like little Zao is the closest to you." Lin Yuan's brows behind the mask creased without a trace. This inconspicuous middle-aged man might be speaking very naturally, but when Lin Yuan turned his head around, the middle-aged man's face suddenly changed into a probing expression, and Lin Yuan had personally witnessed it. In fact, if Lin Yuan wasn't wearing Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask, he wouldn't have noticed it. As Lin Yuan had been wearing Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask, even though Lin Yuan's eyes were constantly looking at little Zao, his perception of the surroundings was still very strong. Within a 10-meter radius, including the blind spot at the back of Lin Yuan's head, Lin Yuan's perception was extremely sharp. Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask might not be able to see through those meticulously arranged assassinations by high-ranked spirit chi professionals. However, Lin Yuan could still sense the middle-aged man's probing gaze. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lifetimes, had an additional lifetime of experience, and he was able to understand the emotions represented by other people's gazes. The middle-aged man's probing gaze had a trace of anxiety. However, this anxiety didn't seem to be coming from Lin Yuan. On the contrary, it seemed like this middle-aged man was hiding a trace of anxiety, which was why he was spying on and sizing up Lin Yuan, who had just entered the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. In other words, the middle-aged man was probing him to see if he would become an uncertain factor that could affect the matter that the middle-aged man was worried about. The middle-aged man's appearance might not be eye-catching, but Lin Yuan was able to use Genius's precise memory to memorize the middle-aged man's aura and figure. Little Zao looked at the middle-aged man who suddenly spoke and walked over. She waved her little hand and said, "Hello, big uncle." This unremarkable middle-aged man sized up Lin Yuan a few more times before waving his hand at little Early. He then stood at the side and sized up the other adventurers that had just entered the dimensional rift. After the unremarkable middle-aged man left, Xiao Zao whispered to Lin Yuan. "Big brother, this big uncle has been here for more than 2 years, but this big uncle is so strange." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan asked softly, "Why does little Zao feel that this eldest uncle is very strange? This eldest uncle doesn't have a stall here. Other big brothers, big sisters, big uncles, and big aunts that come to explore will come here to buy some things from their mothers before entering to fight the demons and baddies. However, this eldest uncle will only leave for 1 or 2 days and will spend most of his time here doing nothing." Speaking of this, little Zao spoke with some concern. "Big brother, do you think this eldest uncle can't defeat the demons and will fight the baddies? If that is the case, will this eldest uncle starve?" When Lin Yuan heard this, his originally frowning brows furrowed even more. This middle-aged man was indeed strange. However, Lin Yuan didn't probe too much into this middle-aged man. At the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift in the royal capital, be it outside or inside, there was a King-class expert dispatched by the Radiance Federation's officials to stand guard. Therefore, no one dared to cause trouble here. If they did, they would be punished according to the severity of the situation. However, even if this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was controlled, it was only at the pinnacle of Class 2, and it was still very dangerous inside. Therefore, this order and stability was only maintained at the entrance of this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Once inside, life and death would depend on one's strength and opportunities. This Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had been controlled here for 7 to 8 years. It was unknown how many lives this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift would devour every year. Of course, the death of these spirit chi professionals wasn't only due to the demons in this abyss-dimensional rift, but also the humans who were also spirit chi professionals. There were plenty of opportunities in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift, such as rare spiritual ingredients or even strange flames. Such opportunities were often accompanied by great value, so it wasn't strange for people to kill and snatch their treasures. After the spirit chi awakening, the human evolution process had changed from the original foundation. Before the spirit chi awakening, humans relied more on wisdom and not martial strength. However, after the spirit chi awakening, humans were like the many other creatures in the world. They needed to increase their individual strength to deal with the challenges of evolution. After the spirit chi awakening, there were also great benefits in the process of increasing human strength. One of the greatest benefits was the extension of lifespan. Chapter 262. This group of Class 2 demons was a group of horn demons. Horn demons were considered the most notorious existences among the Class 2 dimensional lifeforms in the abyss-dimensional rift. Each horn demon had a huge horn on its head. This horn was spiral-shaped and had a strange flame pattern on its tip. Each horn demon was the size of a bull, and its thick and strong limbs allowed the horn demons to carry shocking power when they charged. When the horn demons charged forward, the flame pattern would emit sparks with the withering characteristic after hitting the target. At the same time, the horn demons could also spit out flames with the withering characteristic. Horn demons had great strength. Although Class 2 horn demons were only equivalent to silver phase, Class 2 dimensional lifeforms were comparable to gold phase. However, the Class 2 dimensional lifeforms, horn demons, were comparable to some gold phase in terms of strength. Furthermore, horn demons could spit out flames with the withering characteristic. This powerful strength and flames with withering characteristics made the horn demon's single combat strength almost the top of the Class 2 dimensional creatures. This was the benefit of a Class 2 dimensional life form like horn demons with a complex genetic model. However, such a complex genetic model wasn't so friendly to Lu Jie's source-type insect queen and Lin Yuan's source-type source sand. If Lu Jie's insect queen devoured an insect species Fey with a complex genetic model like the abyss-dimensional life form, the horn demon's genetic model, the amount of spiritual power required to replicate such an insect species Fey with a complex genetic model was far more than replicating other insect species Feys with relatively simple genetic models. Just like Lin Yuan's gold/fantasy breed source-type source sand, the gravel spirit acceptance could accept a heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to platinum 3/flawless. However, if the gravel spirit acceptance was a horn demon, it could only accept a horn demon that was equivalent to a pinnacle gold/flawless Fey. A pinnacle gold/flawless Fey might have extremely strong combat power among pinnacle gold/flawless Feys. However, it was completely powerless against the heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a platinum 3/flawless Fey. The diversity of horn demons' attacks allowed them to become a dimensional life form that cultivated elemental magic and physical strength. However, the heart-penetrating iron line's attack method was very simple. It relied on the explosive power and penetrative ability of its slender and hard body to assassinate the target. However, Lin Yuan had to admit that when he looked at the aura of this group of horn demons, which wasn't considered a lot, he felt that it was even more oppressive than a small sea of insects. This small group of horn demons had obviously discovered Lin Yuan. After seeing Lin Yuan, this group of bull-sized horn demons let out a strange but abnormally loud roar and cruelly charged at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at the 40 to 50 horn demons that were charging at him and extended his hand unhurriedly. The moment Lin Yuan raised his hand, the ground beneath the horn demons collapsed, and the originally hard purplish-black soil started to boil like quicksand. The boiling sand directly stopped the centaur's charge. The centaur desperately tried to break free from the surging quicksand. But at that moment, Lin Yuan's raised hand clenched into a fist. The instant Lin Yuan's hand clenched into a fist, the 40 to 50 horn demons suddenly let out intense and painful cries. Subsequently, these horned demons stopped trying to break free from the surging quicksand. Behind each horned demon, there was a broad and thick sword made of bluish-black ferromanganese. The 40 or so horned demons that were the size of bulls were tied to the thick sword by the ferromanganese chains that were separated from the source sand. Due to the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, the surging quicksand was able to form a chain sword made of ferromanganese from the gravel. The surface of the ferromanganese was complemented by the abnormally sharp metal characteristics. As the horned demons struggled violently, they immediately cut open large wounds on their bodies. As the horned demons struggled again, the wounds quickly turned into holes due to the repeated cuts. A large amount of purplish-red blood, which was unique to abyssal demons, flowed out of the holes, and the blood immediately vanished when it flowed into the quicksand. Lin Yuan shook his head. These horned demons weren't enough for him to train. Immediately after, Lin Yuan's mind moved, and the chain sword instantly tightened. In just a moment, these bull-sized horned demons stopped breathing. Lin Yuan waved his hand and stored all these horned demons into his leaf-shaped Fey storage box. Mosquitoes might be small, but they were still meat. These Class 2 abyss-dimensional lifeforms, the horned demons, were very suitable as food for the Bronze 6/Epic Red Thorn. Now, Red Thorn was no longer consuming large quantities of alien insect-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. Instead, it was consuming large quantities of abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. The abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh also contained extremely strong acidity. However, this acidity was different from the alien insect-dimensional lifeforms' blood. The acid in the flesh of the alien insect-dimensional creatures was extremely corrosive. However, the abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh's acidity was like sulfur. Apart from being corrosive, it also had a burning and withering characteristic. Initially, when Red Thorn was at the elite grade, consuming abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh would be a burden on the mouth of relinquished digestion. However, now that Red Thorn's strength had increased, it wasn't so restrained when eating abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. At the same time, the abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh's acidity with the burning and withering characteristic could make the acid in Red Thorn's digestive fluid more diverse. In fact, while Red Thorn was consuming abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh to increase its acidity, after devouring abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh, Red Thorn was no longer that afraid of the withering characteristic in abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flames. As a source-type lifeform that evolved by devouring flesh, Red Thorn had also grasped a portion of this withering characteristic and fire resistance. Of course, only Red Thorn's Ortet possessed such fire resistance. As for the ramets and child ramets that Red Thorn produced, their fire resistance was still very weak. However, Lin Yuan believed that as long as Red Thorn devoured abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh in the future, Red Thorn had already grasped a trace of the abyssal dimensional lifeform's blood's withering characteristic, and its fire resistance would continue to increase. At the same time, Red Thorn's ability to devour abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh would likely be passed on to the ramets and child ramets through the spores ejected from the spore cavity. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 263. The sky in the abyss-dimensional rift was always dark red, and there was no distinction between day and night. It was very easy to lose track of time while training in the abyss-dimensional rift. Only when one was extremely fatigued would they remember that a long time had passed and that they needed to rest. The ground was also a boundless purplish-black color. There were rugged rock ravines and smooth areas that seemed to be formed by flowing lava. The air was filled with a dense smell of sulfur, and the temperature was maintained at nearly 50 degrees Celsius. It required constant hydration. Time flew by, and Lin Yuan had already been training in the abyss-dimensional rift for a month. Lin Yuan was already used to the abyss-dimensional rift's vile environment. A level 4 horned pseudomorphing demon was struggling fiercely in the midst of the boiling quicksand. The struggling horned terror demon was spitting out sticky liquid-like flames that could almost be considered brown flames. The Class 4 horned terror demon had the strength of a platinum fey. The sticky liquid-like brown flames that the horned terror demon spat out had an extremely strong withering characteristic. Even a platinum plant-type phase roots would be immediately damaged after coming into contact with a little bit of the flames, and the area that came into contact with the flames would wither. If the flames were to come into contact with too many of them, the platinum phase vitality would be corroded by the flames with the extremely strong withering characteristic, causing it to die. All of a sudden, the horned terror demon, which was struggling violently in the surging quicksand sea, suddenly stopped showing signs of life. It was as though something in the sea of sand had struck it and killed it in a single strike. The Class 4 horned terror demon was an evolved form of the Class 2 horned demon. Due to the complexity of the Class 2 horned demon's genetic model, its evolution potential was extremely high. In fact, some extremely talented Class 2 horned demons could even evolve into Class 5 burning horned demons after evolving into Class 4 horned terror demons. A Class 5 burning horned demon's combat strength was equivalent to a diamond fae. It was already considered the pinnacle of combat strength in the uncontrolled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift. This Class 4 horned pseudomorphing demon, which was equivalent to a platinum fae, was still unable to block the all-out sneak attack of the heart-penetrating iron line, which was equivalent to a platinum 3/flawless fae. Lin Yuan let out a breath of relief. For the past month, Lin Yuan had been training in the controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift. After this month of blood and fire, Lin Yuan had a clearer understanding of his strength. At the same time, he could now achieve true compatibility with the source sand. With such compatibility, Lin Yuan could command the source sand to attack, defend, or control with the greatest effect based on his thoughts. It was just like when he had commanded Chimey and Red Thorn to fight. For over a month, Lin Yuan had been letting the source sand rely on its instincts to create sand in the purplish-black soil. Even Lin Yuan did not know how many grains of sand the Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye source sand had created in the ground under his feet without stopping for a month. Although the source sand strength had already reached Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye. However, as an elemental source-type life form, the source sand's intelligence was not high even if it was a Gold/Fantasy breed. The source sand, which had advanced to a fantasy breed, could only transmit simple and vague thoughts. However, as the source sand's gravel underground spread out in a large area, the source sand's gravel spread out. Through its control of the gravel and its perception of spiritual power, the source sand had already discovered many fire-type spiritual ingredients. As long as the source sand sensed these spiritual ingredients, the large amount of gravel hidden under the purplish-black soil would surge out under the source sand's control. It would wrap the spiritual ingredients in the sand and bring them underground. Finally, according to the source sand's will, it would transport them to Lin Yuan's feet. For the past month, apart from training his strength, Lin Yuan had also obtained quite a lot of fire-type spiritual ingredients. The harvest of fire-type spiritual ingredients in this Class 3 abyss dimensional rift was also quite plentiful. After the source sand's gravel was spread out under the ground, its ability to search for treasures was really not just for show. Of course, during this month, Lin Yuan had also understood some truths that he had never truly understood even in his 2 lives. That was the principle of human heart upward and human nature downward. Humans were divided into good and evil, and so was human nature. Humans always wanted to be able to become better, so the human heart was never satisfied. Therefore, the human heart never had a limit. As for human nature downward, it meant that when humans wanted to achieve a certain goal, in order to satisfy the greed in their hearts, they would unconditionally lower their human nature's bottom line. Therefore, human nature never had a bottom line. In this Class 3 abyss dimensional rift, apart from the abyss dimensional lifeforms attacks, Lin Yuan had also encountered 3 waves of attacks from spirit chi professionals. The reason Lin Yuan had been attacked by these 3 waves of spirit chi professionals was that he did not have any experience training in the wilderness. Lin Yuan had been attacked by these 3 waves of spirit chi professionals because he had not had any experience training in the wilderness. When Lin Yuan had taken out food from his amber button-shaped diamond face storage box, he had been seen by the other spirit chi professionals. These 3 waves of spirit chi professionals had wanted to kill him, allowing Lin Yuan to truly understand the dangers of training in the dimensional rift. Lin Yuan did not have the slightest bit of mercy toward these spirit chi professionals who wanted to kill him. Those who wanted to kill, would always be killed. Ever since Lin Yuan had been ambushed by Chen Zhao and Chen Rui in the royal capital's outskirts, he had already made a decision in his heart. Lin Yuan was still the same person he had been in the past. His heart was like a flower that grew toward the sun. However, against those who wanted to kill him, Lin Yuan would also use the most cruel methods. His life was his, and no one could take it away. If they wanted to take it, they would die. These spirit chi professionals who wanted to kill him for his treasures were all buried in this endless underground gravel. Lin Yuan knew that these spirit chi professionals who were exploring the dimensional rift wanted to kill him because they were after his wealth. Therefore, after these spirit chi professionals were devoured by the source sand, their wealth naturally went to Lin Yuan's hands. As for the wealth in the hands of these spirit chi professionals who wanted to kill him, Lin Yuan really did not care about it. These miscellaneous spiritual materials and those radiance dollars added up to just over 100,000 were just a drop in the bucket for Lin Yuan now. Lin Yuan would not keep these resources. He planned to take them to Zhou Jiesen's Star Web store after the training and let her help him sell them. Lin Yuan was now a major shareholder of Zhou Jiesen's Star Web store, and Lin Yuan's Star Web store's profits were even more than Zhou Jiesen's. During this period of time, Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store's profits were already not a small sum. However, if Chimey saw Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store's wealth and then looked at its live streaming room's profits, it would definitely say that none of them could fight. At first, Lin Yuan had an exceptionally uncomfortable feeling in his heart during his first massacre. However, this uncomfortable feeling slowly dissipated after Lin Yuan digested it on his own. Lin Yuan looked at the purplish-red sky in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift and said softly, "If one wishes to shake the world, one must create waves on the flat ground." Since Lin Yuan had already decided to establish his private faction. In the process of his private faction's rise, it was inevitable that it would be accompanied by killings. The rise of a faction would never be peaceful. However, Lin Yuan also had his own ideas about the development of his private faction. Lin Yuan had always known where his advantages were. His advantages were the high concentration of inexhaustible spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone and his ability to enhance phase. Therefore, Lin Yuan's private faction planned to first collect resources and accumulate wealth. Lin Yuan did not want to establish a private faction with a large number of people. Instead, he wanted to build an organization where everyone in the organization was made up of absolute elites. In his previous life, Lin Yuan had also seen a lot of anime when he was young. It was like the Akatsuki organization in Naruto. The 10 Blades in the Realm. Such a faction was what Lin Yuan wanted to build. Lin Yuan's private faction was built on the floating island whale's back. The floating island whale was hidden in the clouds all day long, just like the flowing clouds in the sky. The flowing clouds in the sky had always been out of this world and rarely had an impact on the mortal world. It was unlike a faction that was like a thunderstorm with a great momentum. Once it rained, the world would know. However, no matter how powerful the thunderstorm was, it was ultimately only a moment of heroism. However, if anything dared to anger the flowing clouds hidden in the sky, the clouds would surge, and the sky would change. At that moment, Lin Yuan's brows suddenly raised. According to the source-type Source Sand's perception when it was exploring the spiritual ingredients underground, it seemed to have sensed an object that contained a huge amount of spirit chi. Moreover, this object seemed to be a plant. Based on the Source Sand's perception, Lin Yuan knew that this object had extremely long roots underground. After sensing the Source Sand's perception again and again, Lin Yuan finally confirmed that this plant that contained a huge amount of spirit chi was very small. It was so small that it might not even be as big as Lin Yuan's tightly clenched fist. Therefore, Lin Yuan gave the Source Sand an order to try and bring this plant that contained a huge amount of spirit chi over. The Source Sand sensed Lin Yuan's will and immediately started to move according to Lin Yuan's order. At that moment, Lin Yuan could sense that the Source Sand was facing an abnormally firm obstruction. Lin Yuan immediately injected spiritual power into the Source Sand and let it use its exclusive skill, Metal Consume Manifestation. It precipitated the day and night spirit silver in the sea of sand to form feathers and started to chisel and dig at this firm obstruction. Just as the source sand broke through the obstruction, a green flame suddenly burst into the sky in the distance. This green flame burst into the sky with a shocking momentum. It immediately dyed the purplish-red sky of the controlled class 3-dimensional rift with a layer of green. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 264. Lin Yuan looked at the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance and felt that half of the class 3-dimensional rift's purplish-red sky was tainted with green. Lin Yuan's brows furrowed tightly. As an elemental source-type life form that Lin Yuan had contracted, the source sand might not have high intelligence, and the thoughts it transmitted were only a relatively one-sided existence. However, with the source sand's limited intelligence, it relied on the images transmitted by Lin Yuan's mind connection, allowing Lin Yuan to discover many abnormalities. Things were definitely not simple. After the source sand dug through the solid barrier, it immediately felt like it was being burned. Lin Yuan knew that the source sand had either been attacked by the demons with flames or the flames produced by the plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. However, after Lin Yuan sensed the burning sensation from the source sand, he was sure that this kind of flame could not have come from the Abyss Dimensional Rift's demons. This was because this burning sensation did not contain the power of destruction and withering. Instead, it contained a kind of dense vitality that was the opposite of the power of destruction and withering. It was as though the burning itself was creating life. Some spiritual ingredients would also grow in the Abyss Dimensional Rift, and they were almost all fire-type spiritual ingredients. Therefore, Lin Yuan wasn't surprised at all. Lin Yuan sensed the dense vitality in the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance and compared it with the flames that the source sand had come into contact with and the characteristics contained in the burning sensation. Lin Yuan knew that the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance were released after he had ordered the source sand to dig through the not-so-sturdy barrier. Lin Yuan sensed the source sand's current state and pondered for a moment before ordering it to continue to bring over the fist-sized plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. Upon receiving Lin Yuan's order, the source sand immediately started to move. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan sensed a pure fire-type energy through the source sand. Just as Lin Yuan sensed this pure fire-type energy through the source sand, an extremely dense scarlet flame soared into the sky. This extremely dense scarlet flame immediately covered the green flame that had almost dyed half of the class 3-dimensional rift's purplish-red sky. After this extremely dense scarlet flame soared into the sky, a dense scarlet vortex immediately appeared in the sky. The scarlet vortex was filled with the scarlet flames formed by the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's massive amount of fire elements. This scarlet flame was rapidly absorbing the fire-attributed energy in the surrounding space. In an instant, Lin Yuan felt that the temperature in the Class 3 Dimensional Rift had dropped by more than 3 degrees due to the extraction of a huge amount of fire elements. The grains of sand that the source sand had created to wrap around the plant that contained a large amount of spirit qi had all melted into a liquid the instant the scarlet flames soared into the sky. However, the source sand did not suffer any substantial damage. After all, the grains of sand that contained a large amount of spirit qi plants were just a drop in the ocean of sand that the source sand had produced by crushing the rocks beneath the soil layer. At that moment, Lin Yuan gave the source sand another instruction. He let the source sand bring over the day and night spirit silver, which the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, had taken a lot of effort to break through the barrier debris. Lin Yuan looked at the scarlet flame vortex in the distance, and his expression became increasingly solemn. At the same time, he could not help but recall what his master, the Moon Empress, had told him about the world's top 10 most precious fire-type spiritual ingredients, the life-form sacrificial fire. The Moon Empress had emphasized the life-form sacrificial fire when talking about fire-type spiritual ingredients during the question-and-answer session with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had also seriously memorized the life-form sacrificial fire's characteristics. The current situation, the vitality contained in the green flames, and the pure fire-attributed energy in the scarlet flames were very consistent with the Moon Empress' knowledge of the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. If this flame was really the life-form sacrificial fire, then he had to obtain it no matter what. The life-form sacrificial fire was ranked 7th among the world's fire-type spiritual ingredients because it could be used as a tree core to reshape a dying plant phase second life. It could be said that the life-form sacrificial fire was a kind of sacred item that could give dying plants a second life. However, Lin Yuan had not reached the bottom of the scarlet flame vortex yet, so he could not use Morbius True data to check whether the green flames, which contained a powerful life-form aura, were the life-form sacrificial fire or not. If the green flames, which contained a powerful life-form aura, were the life-form sacrificial fire, then the scarlet flames that soared into the sky must have come from a legendary plant. This legendary plant was a kind of heaven and earth fae that could only be born in a huge amount of pure fire-attributed elements. This fleshy heaven and earth fae was called the Red Pagoda. The life-form sacrificial fire, which was ranked 7th among the world's fire-type spiritual ingredients, was the legendary Red Pagoda. It used its own body as a furnace and exhausted all the energy in its body to nurture it. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to immediately head toward the scarlet vortex in the sky. Lin Yuan stood in place and waited silently. In a short while, the purplish-black ground under Lin Yuan's feet suddenly collapsed, forming a quicksand vortex that was only the size of a bucket. In the whirlpool of quicksand, a piece of yellow metal was lifted up by the quicksand. This piece of yellow metal was covered with marks left by the impact and cutting. Lin Yuan squatted down and carefully examined this strange yellow metal before standing up. This strange yellow metal was very common in the Radiance Federation because it was the main material for making phase storage boxes. The only metal characteristic of this yellow metal was that it could isolate the aura of phase. Lin Yuan thought to himself, I'm right. There is indeed a big problem here. This was because the Fey metal would not be produced in Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts. Whether it was the green flames that soared into the sky containing the life-form aura or the scarlet flames that could form the flame vortex. Under normal circumstances, regardless of whether it was the life-form sacrificial fire or the heaven and earth fae that nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire, the Red Pagoda would have long been discovered by the adventurers who were training in this controlled Class 3-dimensional rift. This also meant that someone had deliberately tampered with the spirit-trapping metal. However, no matter who did this, it didn't matter. As long as it was done, it would definitely not be a good person. This was because if the demons wandering in this controlled Class 3-dimensional rift discovered such a rare flame item that contained such a massive amount of energy. If this object that contained such a massive amount of flame energy was placed in the dimensional rift, it would be placed on the central hub of the Source Seed's connection to the Abyss world. If it was light, it would allow this Class 3-dimensional rift to revert from a pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift to the original Class 3-dimensional rift before it was controlled. If it was heavy, this massive amount of energy might even directly expand the hub that was connected to the Abyss world. It would directly turn this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift into a Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. If such a situation really happened, it would not only be a disaster for the adventurers training in this Abyss Dimensional Rift. It would also be a huge disaster for the Radiance Federation. This controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift opened in the suburbs of the royal capital, and it was not considered far from the royal capital. If this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift turned into a Class 4 Dimensional Rift and the Radiance Federation was completely unprepared, a large number of demons would surge out from the Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Even if the Radiance Federation's top experts made a move, the royal capital's periphery would probably be turned into a scorched land by this suddenly opened Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. In a Class 4 Dimensional Rift, there were already Class 6 dimensional lifeforms. Class 6 dimensional lifeform strength was equivalent to a suzerain phase standard. Furthermore, this open Class 4 dimensional rift was an Abyss Dimensional Rift, and the genetic model of the demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift was relatively complex. Among the dimensional lifeforms of the same grade, they were originally the existence with the strongest individual strength. Putting aside a few Class 6 demons that were equivalent to a suzerain phase standard, even one Class 6 demon that escaped would instantly turn the royal capital's periphery into a land of disaster. Lin Yuan did not choose to conceal his strength this time. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power, and nearly 100 meters of purplish-black soil instantly turned into a quicksand vortex. The center of the quicksand vortex condensed into a pair of giant half-arms, and the arms were doing a lifting action. Lin Yuan stood on the palm of this giant half-arm that was formed from gravel and stood upright. The quicksand vortex within a 100-meter radius instantly boiled, and thousands of black feathers formed from the day and night spirit silver seeped out of the quicksand vortex. These thousands of black feathers formed 4 elegant black wings on Lin Yuan's back. Lin Yuan flapped the 4 wings that were formed from thousands of day and night spirit silver feathers and soared into the sky, flying toward the distant scarlet flame vortex. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 265. Lin Yuan flapped his 4 wings and flew very skillfully in the air. This was not the first time he had used the wings formed by the day and night spirit silver feathers to fly. In the previous month of training, Lin Yuan had not only mastered the technique of controlling the source sand, but he had also learned how to use the wings formed by the source sand's metal consume manifestation to fly. At the same time, he had also learned how to use the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, to fly. At that time, Lin Yuan had chosen the day and night spirit silver as the second metal for the source sand's metal consume manifestation to devour. A large part of the reason was that the day and night spirit silver was almost weightless. The weightless wings formed by the day and night spirit silver could increase Lin Yuan's flying speed and save more spiritual power while flapping. Now, the day and night spirit silver feathers that the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand had separated from the sand grains were already very different from before. After referring to many flying fays, Lin Yuan finally chose the feather shape of the platinum flying fay, Divine Travel Black Swallow. The Divine Travel Black Swallow might be very uncomfortable to ride. However, the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape determined that it was better at flying. Of course, Lin Yuan had also made some improvements to the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape. He had reduced the thickness of the feather's edges and made them sharper. At the same time, many bubble-like hollows were formed inside the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feathers. This improvement could allow the limited 1 cubic meter of day and night spirit silver to produce more feathers. After Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into the hollow parts of the feathers, the black feathers would turn white according to the day and night spirit silver's metal characteristics. It could greatly increase the white feathers' cushioning and protection against external attacks. Lin Yuan's current flying speed was extremely fast, almost comparable to an ordinary gold flying fay. However, this kind of flying required a certain amount of spiritual power. Although Lin Yuan did not conduct spiritual power into the day and night spirit silver to turn the wings white, he still needed to consume spiritual power to maintain the flapping of these 4 wings. It was not like the countless sand grains that the source sand had created underground, which could be freely controlled according to the source sand's consciousness. During Lin Yuan's flight, the source sand was also rapidly creating sand grains. At the same time, it gathered the yellow sand in the direction of the flame vortex. As soon as the flames that contained the aura of living beings soared into the sky. At the entrance of the dimensional rift, the middle-aged man, who was spying on the adventurers entering the dimensional rift, revealed a horrified and fearful expression. At that moment, almost all the adventurers who were training in the controlled class 3-dimensional rift saw the soaring green flames and the scarlet flames that covered the green flames and formed a flame vortex. In the abyss dimensional rift, such a situation could only be caused by the strange flames that were produced by the abyss dimensional rift. However, he had never heard of any strange flames that could cause such a change in the dimensional space. In the abyss dimensional rift, many adventurers or adventurer squads who thought they were capable headed toward the scarlet flame vortex. Of course, there were also some adventurers who wanted to try their luck. However, most of the adventurers wanted to leave this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift had become a place of trouble due to the dimensional spatial anomaly. However, the scarlet abyss vortex was absorbing the flame energy from the class 3 abyss dimensional rift at a very fast speed. In this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift, the temperature of 50 degrees Celsius all year round was now less than 20 degrees Celsius. The temperature of less than 20 degrees Celsius wasn't even as high as the royal capital's temperature in late autumn. This caused the adventurers, who were already used to the temperature in the controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift, to involuntarily feel a chill all over their bodies. Many of the adventurers who had the intention to retreat were preparing to leave this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift. However, they suddenly realized that this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift had transformed due to the extremely powerful scarlet flame vortex's absorption of the fire elements, causing the dimensional spatial entrance to be closed. This also meant that this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift had become a zone that prohibited entry and exit. In the dimensional rift, all communication methods were unable to be used. This naturally included the star web card. Such a situation immediately caused the adventurers at the Abyss dimensional rift's entrance to panic. At that moment, the King-class expert that the Radiance Federation's spirit guards had dispatched to this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift stood up and maintained the situation. The Radiance Federation's controlled dimensional rifts were usually managed and maintained by the spirit guards. Every 10 years, the dimensional rifts would be active, and the spirit guards would close the previously controlled dimensional rifts. Once the active period was over, the spirit guards would once again choose a suitable dimensional rift to control. It would form a resource for the Radiance Federation's younger generation to train and the Guild Alliance's registered spirit chi professionals to maintain their livelihood. The spirit guards had arranged for Zhao Jinxiang to guard this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift in the outskirts of the royal capital. This meant that Zhao Jinxiang was highly regarded by the spirit guards. At the same time, Zhao Jinxiang's strength was definitely extremely formidable. After becoming a King-class expert, the Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift below Zhao Jinxiang was no longer the first one that he had guarded. Even though Zhao Jinxiang was experienced and knowledgeable, this was the first time he had seen such a dimensional rift. Just as Zhao Jinxiang was presiding over the situation and calming the adventurers down, the middle-aged man, who usually stayed at the dimensional rift's entrance, had unknowingly left this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift's entrance. He hurriedly headed in the direction of the scarlet flame vortex. If this middle-aged man was placed in a crowd, no one would want to take a second look at him. The shock in his eyes was slowly covered by fear. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment and finally reached out his hand to pull off a thin mask from his face. After this thin mask was pulled off by the middle-aged man, it slowly turned into a brown worm that looked like soft mud. If the spirit guards Zhao Jinxiang, who was guarding this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift, saw this mud-like brown fat worm, he would definitely exclaim. This mud-like brown fat worm wasn't a fey produced by the Radiance Federation's territory. This fey came from the Dark Federation, which was extremely far away from the Radiance Federation. It was considered the Dark Federation's signature fey. After this middle-aged man took off his mask, there was a very strange talisman on his face. This strange talisman seemed to form a rather sinister crow. The middle-aged man took out a crystal bottle and hesitated for a long time. This crystal bottle contained a drop of black blood. The middle-aged man finally smeared the black blood on the strange talisman that looked like a sinister crow on his face. In an instant, the middle-aged man's eyes became slack as though he was dead. Just as the middle-aged man was about to fall to the ground, his originally dark green eyes suddenly surged with scarlet. This scarlet pupil had a triangular pattern in the middle, which was just like a crow's beak. At that moment, the middle-aged man's aura had completely changed. After the middle-aged man recovered, he crushed the mud-like brown fat worm in his hand and said in a sinister voice, "Useless thing. Useless thing. You can't even complete a small task from me. No wonder you were trained by that trash Cheng Wu. I'd like to see who it is that wants to touch my living sacrificial fire." Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free as soon as possible. Chapter 266. A youth dressed in dark blue martial arts attire was fighting on a protruding purplish-black rock. He was looking at the scarlet vortex that was rapidly absorbing the fire elements in the distance. Two jellyfish, one red and one blue, floated in mid-air with water curtains around their bodies, circling around the young man in dark blue. A young man with a watermelon hairstyle was commanding a huge skate with a dark blue body and strange light blue patterns on its body. This dark blue giant stingray with strange pale blue patterns was rapidly slaughtering a small group of Class 3 abyss-dimensional lifeforms, the lin-tailed demons. Among all the Class 3 demons, the lin-tailed demons were considered the demons with the highest body toughness. The lin-tailed demon's strongest attack method was to brandish their 3 long tails covered with scaly spikes to whip and stab. If the scaly-tailed demon's long tail that was covered in scaly armor spikes, even silver-grade spirit materials would be broken into pieces. If stabbed by the sharp tip of the long tail covered in scaly armor spikes, most silver-grade spirit materials would probably be directly penetrated. However, this small group of lin-tailed demons, which were equivalent to gold phase, were easily sliced into countless pieces by this giant stingray. The group of struggling lin-tailed demons' scaly spikes whipped the giant stingray's body. The scaly spikes, which carried a massive force of 500 kilograms, couldn't hurt this giant stingray at all. Even when it whipped the water curtains around the stingray, it couldn't cause any obvious ripples. This youth with a watermelon hairstyle was Fong Duo. The Dragon Gate Guild Club had been in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift for over a month. During this period, the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team and reserve team had a total of 9 members who had been honing the coordination of phase on the battlefield. If a solo battle was to consider how a person could control a few phase to carry out an effective battle, the distribution of spirit chi professionals' spiritual power and the coordination of phase abilities and exclusive skills would determine the eruption of combat power and the direction of the battle. Therefore, there wasn't much difference between a team of spirit chi professionals' considerations and individual battles. It was still the coordination of phase abilities and exclusive skills. However, among such phase, the combination of abilities and exclusive skills was switched from individual to group. When a mature spirit chi professional squad was in battle, they would not summon all their phase. Instead, each of them would only summon 2 phase or even 1 main phase to cooperate. He would allocate the spirit chi in his body to his strongest phase, maximizing the efficiency of the spirit chi usage. He would then summon his other phase to deal with special situations. In many cases, the non-main phase would help the main phase block damage or carry out functional attacks. At that moment, Dragon Gate Club's original 9 members had been reduced to 4. One of the main members of Dragon Gate Guild Club led 4 reserve members back to the base of Dragon Gate Guild Club in the royal capital. He was preparing to carry out the final upgrade of his phase quality and grade before the start of the tournament season. Fong Duo lifted his head and said to Long Tao, "Boss, we're done wrapping things up here. There really isn't much we can do with these scaled tail demons." Upon hearing that, Long Tao did not speak. He only nodded his head and continued to observe the scarlet flame vortex that had suddenly appeared on the horizon. It was as though he was trying hard to think of something in his mind. As soon as Fong Duo recalled his Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Terror Ray into the spiritual spatial zone, he saw Zhao Xiaochun holding an orange. Zhao Xiaochun had already peeled the orange's skin and was eating happily with a large piece of orange flesh in her mouth. Fong Duo hurriedly leaned over and said, "Everyone who sees it gets a share. Zhao Xiaochun, give me half of the remaining half of your orange." Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun quickly lowered her head and stuffed the remaining half of the orange into her mouth. Then, she looked at Fong Duo proudly, her eyes filled with the meaning of, "I peeled the orange, so why should I give it to you?" Fong Duo immediately felt wronged and glanced at Chen Hongfeng, who was working hard to control the huge-tailed swamp lizard and harvesting these Class 3 scaled tail demons that were on their last breaths. Then, Fong Duo climbed up the protruding rock that Long Tao was standing on and said to Long Tao with a grin, "Boss, your 2 Platinum/Fantasy Blue Dragon jellyfish are really getting stronger." Hearing this, Long Tao could not help but rub his temples and said helplessly, "Fong Duo, if you have something to say, say it." Fong Duo replied immediately, Boss, Zhao Xiaochun has been slacking off. These few waves of demons, Zhao Xiaochun didn't go up at all. She's just eating fruits. Zhao Xiaochun, who was swallowing the orange, almost choked to death when she heard Fong Duoduo's words. Zhao Xiaochun loved sour food, so the oranges she bought were also very sour. The orange juice flowed into Zhao Xiaochun's nose, causing her to choke on her tears. Long Tao looked at Fong Duoduo, who was seriously complaining, and Zhao Xiaochun, who was coughing non-stop and was obviously choking. He felt a buzzing pain in his temples. Fong Duoduo and Zhao Xiaochun had not stopped training for more than a month. Long Tao felt that even if he encountered a group of level 4 demons, they would not be as troublesome as Fong Duoduo and Zhao Xiaochun. At this time, Zhao Xiaochun secretly glanced at Chen Hongfeng and gave him a look. Seeing Zhao Xiaochun's meaningful glance, Chen Hongfeng immediately said, "Boss, Fong Duoduo angered big sister Xiaochun to tears just now." Upon hearing this, Long Tao held his forehead with his hand, indicating that he did not want to speak. Zhao Xiaochun threw an orange to Chen Hongfeng and gave him an approving look. Upon seeing this, Fong Duoduo felt even more wronged and jumped off the rock, clamoring to ask Zhao Xiaochun for an orange. At that moment, Long Tao's solemn voice came. "Duoduo, Xiaochun, Feng, a treasure should have appeared in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. This treasure is likely to be a strange flame that we have never heard of before. Let's go and take a look." When Zhao Xiaochun, Fong Duoduo, and Chen Hongfeng saw that Long Tao was serious, they immediately stopped fooling around. They rode on Fong Duoduo's Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray and headed in the direction of the Scarlet Flame Vortex on the horizon. Sitting on the back of the Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray, Zhao Xiaochun felt the abnormally low temperature in the Abyss Dimensional Rift and immediately tightened her clothes. Then, she took out a pig's trotter with a layer of shiny oil from her drumstick-shaped diamond face storage box and started to gnaw on it. As soon as Zhao Xiaochun took out this huge pig's trotter, Fong Duoduo couldn't help but smack his lips. Upon seeing this, Long Tao could not stand it anymore and said to Zhao Xiaochun, who was eating happily, "Xiaochun, give Fong Duoduo a pig's trotter too. Xiaochun, give Fong Duoduo a pig trotter too. You made him so hungry that his fury ray can't even fly properly." Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Zhao Xiaochun reluctantly threw a pig's trotter to Fong Duoduo and said, "Eat gently. I won this from a buffet previously. You won't be able to eat this pig's trotter in the future." Fong Duoduo was a little puzzled. "Why can't I eat it when I have money?" Zhao Xiaochun said rather regretfully. "That shop had an eating contest previously, so I went to support it and tried it casually. After a month, that shop closed for some reason." At that moment, Lin Yuan had arrived near the Scarlet Flame Vortex. He deliberately found a place where no one was around to land. After landing, he retracted his 4 wings, which turned into thousands of scattered black feathers that fell to the ground. The place where the feathers fell to the ground suddenly turned into a quicksand vortex, and these thousands of black feathers made of day and night spirit silver immediately melted into the quicksand vortex. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice suddenly rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan's pupils shrank. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 267. The mother of Bloodbath's pleasant and strange voice had a trace of doubt and solemnity. "Lin Yuan, I sense a trace of a suzerain/myth breed aura." Lin Yuan subconsciously asked. "Is it a suzerain/myth breed fey or a class 6 demon with the strength of a suzerain? This aura doesn't have the smell of flames or sulfur, so it can't be the aura of a demon." Lin Yuan was nervous when he suddenly heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. However, after the mother of Bloodbath confirmed that it wasn't the aura of a class 6 demon, Lin Yuan's heart relaxed slightly. If the aura of a class 6 demon really appeared in this controlled class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, it would really be a big problem. However, Lin Yuan still frowned slightly and pondered. The strongest abyss-dimensional life form in the controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift was only a Class 4 demon. A Class 4 demon's strength was only equivalent to a Platinum Phase combat strength. Logically speaking, there really didn't seem to be anything in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift that could attract the attention of a suzerain/myth breed fae. In the Radiance Federation, there weren't any suzerain/myth breed faes. Some wild faes would choose to report to the spirit guards after reaching the suzerain grade. In this way, these wild faes that had reached suzerain could be considered experts that were officially recognized by the Radiance Federation. These wild faes that reached suzerain and chose to serve the Radiance Federation's spirit guards had excellent benefits. They almost didn't have to worry about future promotion resources. At the same time, they would also receive help from the Radiance Federation's Class 4 or even Class 5 creation masters. If such experts wanted to take the initiative to obtain resources, most of them would go to those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened in the outside world. They would go to seize the source-type items in those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened. This was the best way for suzerain experts to accumulate resources. Therefore, Lin Yuan was a little puzzled. Mother of Bloodbath, can you suzerain/myth breed faes sense each other within a certain range? The Mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in his ears. The aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae can only be sensed by other suzerain/myth breed faes. If one party intentionally retracts its aura, it will be hard to discover the other party's existence even if they are face to face. Unless it is a suzerain/myth breed fae that is naturally adept at detection. However, I'm adept at attacking, not detection. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately confirmed one thing in his heart. This suzerain/myth breed fae should not be like the Mother of Bloodbath, who was a path protector of the younger generation undergoing training in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift. Even some rich and powerful clans would arrange for path protectors during their growth. Most of these path protectors were king class or even peak powerhouses. Very few of the Dao protectors of the disciples of the great clans could reach the suzerain rank. Even if there was, it should be a suzerain human expert above king class and not a suzerain/myth breed fae. Moreover, the Mother of Bloodbath could actually sense the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae. This meant that the suzerain/myth breed fae didn't conceal its aura. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before asking. Mother of Bloodbath, did you sense that suzerain/myth breed fae's aura before or after the Scarlet Vortex appeared? The Mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice said with certainty. Not long after the Scarlet Vortex appeared, I sensed the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae. However, there is something wrong with the aura. The Mother of Bloodbath paused and spoke again. This suzerain/myth fae's aura is very weak, so weak that it doesn't seem like a true suzerain/myth fae. But this aura might be weak, but it is very pure. After remembering the Mother of Bloodbath's words, he still could not figure out what was going on. However, Lin Yuan was extremely vigilant in his heart. If this suzerain/myth fae's aura had only been exposed after the Scarlet Vortex appeared, it would not have been able to escape. This meant that this suzerain/myth fae was also attracted by the strange flame under the Scarlet Vortex. Lin Yuan felt the gold eye/fantasy eye elemental source-type source sand under his feet, which had almost covered the ground under his feet. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. The source sand that he had contracted was different from his other faes. Over the past month, the source sand had created an unknown amount of yellow sand with its gold/fantasy breed strength. Every bit of yellow sand could increase the source sand strength by a portion. Lin Yuan quickly injected the spiritual power in his body into the source sand under the purplish-black soil under his feet. Lin Yuan ordered the source sand to quickly create sand and fill the bottom of the red vortex, which was likely to be the World Fey Red Pagoda and the ground that had produced the world sacrificial fire from the Red Pagoda. With the injection of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, the gold/fantasy source sand, which had been slowly creating sand, finally revealed its extraordinary power. Every grain of sand under the soil was attached with ferromanganese's hard and sharp metal characteristics and quickly shattered the rocks under the soil. After the source sand accepted Lin Yuan's injection of spirit qi, a large amount of sand was produced and quickly spread in all directions with the flame vortex as the center. He raised his hand and used Morbius spirit lock on the bronze X/legend spirit gather goldfish's spirit injection to recover the spiritual power he had just consumed. Now that Lin Yuan was prepared to seize this treasure that had triggered the world anomaly. In that case, he naturally had to maintain his best state and accept any possible dangers and challenges. As Lin Yuan walked to the entrance of the valley under the flame vortex, he found that there were already many spirit qi professionals at the entrance of the valley under the red vortex. However, these spirit qi professionals did not go forward and were trapped outside the valley under the scarlet vortex. Lin Yuan looked at the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy under the scarlet vortex and could not help but sigh. The flowing flame-like fire elemental energy almost covered the interior of the valley. Being under the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy in the valley was equivalent to being exposed to the attacks of a pinnacle silver fire-type fae. Most of the spirit qi professionals who came to this controlled class 3-dimensional rift for training and adventure had gold faes. Only a few people had platinum faes. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 268. Those spirit qi professionals with platinum faes might be able to enter and could even bring 1 or 2 companions with pinnacle gold faes. However, these spirit qi professionals were not at the platinum standard and did not have companions with platinum faes, so they could only be stuck outside the valley. He didn't even have the right to enter the valley. Lin Yuan's arrival attracted the attention of many adventurers and young people who were here to watch the show. "Kid, don't go any further. Just watch from here. There are people selling snacks over there, but the price is a bit expensive." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked to the side and saw a little fatty holding a pile of supplies and hawking them. Beside him stood a few younger people who were about the same age as the little fatty. They were all clamoring to help the little fatty sell the large pile of goods in front of them. These shouts made the atmosphere of the scene a little noisy. Those who didn't know better would think that they were collectively waiting to watch a performance. Lin Yuan really didn't know whether he should say that the little fatty had a brain for business or that he was foolish enough to not be afraid of trouble. He walked to the entrance of the valley and was about to enter the barrier formed by the flame-shaped fire elements. At that moment, a middle-aged adventurer hurriedly pulled Lin Yuan and said, "Don't worry. Do you want to die?" Those fellows who thought that they were strong didn't manage to run more than a few meters before they were all burned to death by the flame-shaped fire elements. Although the fire elements in this valley are only equivalent to a silver phase attack, the inside is already equivalent to a gold phase attack. As soon as this adventurer finished speaking, another adventurer next to him spoke up. "Do you really think you're black with a mask on? Even if black is here, that strange plant and that silver/fantasy breed bird fae won't be able to enter this fire elemental valley filled with flowing flames." Lin Yuan raised his brows. This elder brother is very knowledgeable. If he were to use red thorn and chimey, he wouldn't be able to enter the valley filled with flowing flames. However, he didn't plan on relying on red thorn and chimey to enter. If Lin Yuan wanted to enter the valley filled with flowing flames, he had 2 ways. The first method was to summon the silver fantasy breed jasmine lily. He had the jasmine lily cast heal on him, and then he filled his body with life energy and endured the pain. Even if one were to be injured by the flowing flames, the jasmine lily's rich life energy would immediately heal them. However, if that was the case, he would have to endure it back and forth between burning off a layer of skin and growing another layer of skin. Lin Yuan felt that this was simply too tough. Lin Yuan would not be so cruel to himself. However, Lin Yuan had a second method. That was, he could use the source sand to sink into the ground and reach the position below the flame vortex by walking underground. The source sand had already scouted the path for Lin Yuan. The flowing flame-shaped fire elements in the valley were almost at the standard of a gold phase attack. However, the temperature of the purplish-black soil in the valley was not high. Furthermore, the temperature near the fist-sized plant that contained a huge amount of spirit chi was no different from the temperature outside the valley. It might even be colder. Therefore, traveling underground was the best choice. When the two adventurers who had been talking to Lin Yuan turned around, they realized that Lin Yuan had disappeared. The two of them quickly looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. One of the adventurers said in surprise. "My goodness, that kid burned away too quickly." The other adventurer realized that the words he wanted to say had been said first, and he choked on his words. After a long time, he said, "It is said that women are made of water. It's said that women are made of water. Is this guy wearing a mask made of oil?" At that moment, the two of them suddenly heard a scream from the side. A slightly plump middle-aged woman dressed in leather armor was covering her mouth as she cried out in alarm, "Guguda, Guguda." After screaming for a long time, she shouted, "That kid was just eaten by the soil. That kid was just eaten by the soil." At that moment, Lin Yuan was already 5 meters underground. However, he was not squeezed miserably in the yellow sand. Instead, he was in a metal cage that was sealed on all sides by chain swords. Lin Yuan stood in this metal cage made of ferromanganese and did not dare to move. Even if Lin Yuan was the source sands contractor, the ferromanganese's metal characteristics did not recognize people. If he moved recklessly, Lin Yuan would have to experience the feeling of a potato scratching the skin of a potato. Soon, Lin Yuan was lifted out of the purplish-black soil by the source sand's huge hand. The moment he left the ground, the metal cage made of ferromanganese quickly melted into the gravel. At this critical moment, Lin Yuan suddenly sensed something. The source sand instantly produced thousands of feathers made of gold day and night spirit silver, and the feathers instantly formed 4 wings. When these 4 wings had just appeared, Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into them, and they turned from black to pure white. The 4 lustrous white wings folded and protected Lin Yuan in between them. At that moment, 3 violent energy blasted on Lin Yuan's 4 lustrous white wings. Even with the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand strength and the day and night spirit silver's extremely strong buffering and shock-absorbing metal characteristics, Lin Yuan still felt a significant impact. This impact made Lin Yuan feel that his internal organs were in pain. However, although this impact made Lin Yuan very painful, it did not cause him any substantial damage. If Lin Yuan had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments and had been paying attention, he would have been seriously injured. If he had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments, he would have been seriously injured even if he had defended himself. In this month, Lin Yuan had been used to the ruthless methods used to kill people and seize their treasures. However, he did not expect that someone would actually ambush adventurers who had just arrived in this valley. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard 3 rough voices coming from outside. "Big brother, this kid is not dead yet. His reaction is really fast. He's not dead yet. Can't you see that the white wings are not open? Big brother, what fey is this? It can even grow wings on a person's body. Why haven't I heard of it before?" Then, Lin Yuan's lustrous white wings were immediately bombarded by the fey's abilities. The 3 voices were obviously from the same team of spirit chi professionals. Judging from the attacks just now, there were 2 pinnacle gold phase attacks and 1 platinum 2/elite phase attacks. Since it was an ambush, even if the 3 of them did not use 100% of their strength, they must have used at least 80% of their strength. Lin Yuan's ice-cold voice sounded under the 4 lustrous white wings. "Boil, source sand." As soon as Lin Yuan's voice fell, the purplish-black soil in the valley collapsed in an instant, forming a quicksand with a radius of nearly 1 kilometer. At this moment, all the quicksand formed a force that pushed down layer after layer of sand. As the quicksand boiled, it was as if it wanted to drag everything nearly 100 meters underground. Lin Yuan heard 3 rough exclamations, so his 4 white wings spread out and turned black in an instant. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 269. The four black wings absorbed the little light in the valley, as though there were ink-colored ripples in the air that devoured the light. Before Lin Yuan had been attacked by the trio, he had been vigilant and on guard. Now, these three people were caught off guard by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan shook his four black wings and stood on the palm that had been lifted out of the sea of sand. The middle finger had been blown off by the attack just now, and he controlled the source sand to attack. At that moment, one of the three spirit chi professionals, who had been struggling and sneak attacking Lin Yuan, suddenly appeared. The two pinnacle gold spirit chi professionals and their contracted phase seemed to have encountered some terrifying attack at the bottom of the quicksand. All the roars and shouts were instantly stuck in their abdomens, losing their vitality and sinking into the quicksand. Upon seeing this, the Platinum Fey professional quickly shouted, Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Let me live. I'll do whatever you want me to do in the future." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's eyes behind the mask were very cold and flashing with killing intent. "You don't even have a willpower rune. What right do you have to be loyal?" Lin Yuan's words made the spirit chi professional, who was struggling in the sea of sand and had a platinum fey, unable to say anything to beg for mercy. Without a willpower rune, one could not use a willpower rune to make an oath. Without a willpower rune to bind one's contract, one's words had no credibility. Lin Yuan's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the platinum spirit chi professional and the sword-toothed archback wolf struggling in the quicksand. Lin Yuan would not be lenient to anyone who wanted to kill him. Even if this spirit chi professional with the platinum fey had a willpower rune and swore loyalty to Lin Yuan would not hesitate to kill him. This was because Lin Yuan would not spare anyone who had the intention to kill him. He would not turn these people who had the intention to kill him into his servants and keep them by his side. Due to the sand grains that the source sand had accumulated for more than a month, its strength was far from its usual level. The gold eye/fantasy eye source sand's usual strength was already comparable to a platinum fey. The source sand's ability to control the boundless sand grains had far exceeded the limits of a platinum fey. As long as it wasn't a flying-type platinum fey that fell into this boundless quicksand, it was impossible to escape. Only diamond land feys could break free if they were trapped in this quicksand. The source sand's flows and wasn't just a phase attack method. Instead, an elemental source-type life form had accumulated a natural disaster through its own characteristics. The spirit chi professionals who had platinum phase struggling in the sea of sand no longer had much spiritual power to resist this downward flowing sand due to the rapid consumption of spirit chi during the struggle. This spirit chi professional with a platinum fey had accidentally swallowed a few mouthfuls of sand while struggling. The sand grains contained the characteristics of ferromanganese, causing the platinum spirit chi professional's vocal cords to be completely crushed. Now, this platinum spirit chi professional did not even have the ability to speak. At that moment, the platinum spirit chi professional heard a cold voice echo. "How many people have you ambushed and killed?" The boiling quicksand that Lin Yuan channeled his spiritual power was equivalent to Lin Yuan's eyes. Lin Yuan had already sensed that there were still many spirit chi professionals and feys that had just died in this quicksand. These spirit chi professionals and feys had all been killed in a sneak attack or in one blow. It was obvious that these three people had ambushed many adventurers that had come here before ambushing him. At that moment, the spirit chi professional with the platinum fey, who no longer had the strength to struggle, had blood-red eyes as he stared at Lin Yuan with resentment. Lin Yuan looked at the resentment in this spirit chi professional's eyes and gently moved his fingers. The platinum saber-toothed archback wolf, which was struggling to lift the spirit chi professional in this sea of sand, suddenly only had time to let out a mournful cry before sinking into the quicksand without a sound. The spirit chi professional with the platinum saber-toothed archback wolf was in pain, and beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. The real world was not Star Web, and the spiritual backlash after a phase death had a great impact on spirit chi professionals. Lin Yuan said indifferently. Those who want to kill will be killed. I wanted to ask you why you ambushed other adventurers, but you swallowed gravel with ferromanganese characteristics, and your vocal cords are already broken, so I can't ask you anything. Then, Lin Yuan said softly. Source Sand, eat him. As the spirit chi professional with the platinum sword-tooth archback wolf sank into the quicksand, Lin Yuan was the only one left in the cave directly below the red vortex in this valley. Lin Yuan let the source sand expand the area of the flows and, turning the area 2 kilometers away from the cave entrance into the flows N area. He then buried the entrance of the cave in the valley with sand. Now, he stepped on the boiling quicksand and walked to the fist-sized plant that had caused this red vortex to contain great energy. Lin Yuan realized that the fist-sized plant that had caused the red vortex was indeed a scarlet succulent plant that contained immense energy. The color of this scarlet succulent plant was the purest red. It was even purer than the scarlet color of the cinnabar. 7 to 8 thick, fang-like leaves grew together layer by layer, piecing together an elegant lotus-like scarlet succulent plant. Each of the thick, fang-like leaves was red and translucent, but they were not eye-catching. Although it was an extremely red color and should be as dazzling as the rainbow sun, this red color was exceptionally reserved. It was not as dazzling as the flame-like flame essence that it had absorbed. Lin Yuan felt that these fang-like leaves were a little like the teeth of a dragon species fey, but when these leaves were put together, there was an indescribable gentleness. A succulent plant that was not even the size of a fist actually seemed to have a kind of motherly radiance that could accommodate all living beings. Each dragon's fang-like leaf was scarlet in color, and only the root of the leaf would produce a kind of green color. The green color gathered together to form a cluster of green flames. This green flame was completely wrapped in this scarlet flame, and not even a hint of aura leaked out. This scarlet flame burned very fiercely, but when Lin Yuan walked close, he could not feel the temperature. The flame-like fire elements absorbed by the flame vortex were all fused into this scarlet flame. However, this scarlet flame did not grow. Only the green flame in the center of the scarlet flame was constantly flickering. As this green flame flickered, it seemed to become more and more sparkling at a speed visible to the naked eye, just like a burning jade. Lin Yuan was now almost certain that this scarlet succulent plant in front of him should be the red pagoda. The green flame wrapped in the scarlet flame should be the life-form sacrificial fire, which was ranked 7th among all fire-type spiritual ingredients in the world. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check and found that he was right. This scarlet succulent plant was the red pagoda. However, this scarlet succulent plant was not as simple as an ordinary red pagoda. Under True Data, this scarlet succulent plant's name was the Twin Red Pagoda. After a careful check, Lin Yuan found that this red pagoda really had more than one flower head. Looking at the roots, he found that the larger of the 2 main flower heads had almost withered for some reason. Only a very weak scarlet flame was still emitting from the center of the main flower. In the scarlet flame, there was a trace of a green flame that was thinner than strands of hair. If this secondary flower had not been protecting and nourishing the main flower's last fire seed, this main flower's fire seed would have long been extinguished. This main flower's fire seed would have long been extinguished. Lin Yuan immediately realized that something was wrong. As a creation master, Lin Yuan had a deep understanding of the growth of all things. For a heaven and earth fey like the red pagoda, the main flower would never wither in a natural environment. Instead, the secondary flower would still be alive. Lin Yuan first kept a distance from the red pagoda with his hand and then released pure spiritual power. When the red pagoda felt this pure spiritual power, its scarlet leaves suddenly became brighter. After a while, Lin Yuan touched the basically withered main flower with his hand and released pure spirit chi into it. All things had a spirit. As a heaven and earth fey, the red pagoda naturally had its own intelligence. As a plant fey, the red pagoda's intelligence was limited, but it could sense others' help. The growth of heaven and earth phase was a process of fighting against the heavens. With the help of this pure spirit chi, the twin red pagoda immediately showed goodwill to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan injected a large amount of pure spirit chi into the twin red pagoda. The twin red pagoda had already regarded Lin Yuan as one of its own. However, the more pure spirit qi was injected into the twin red pagoda's main flower, the more Lin Yuan felt that something was wrong. When Lin Yuan placed his palm on the twin red pagoda's heaven and earth fei, he found that the life-form sacrificial fire had long matured. Logically speaking, after the red pagoda finished nurturing the heaven and earth sacrificial fire, it should naturally dissipate. This was because the red pagoda was a kind of fei that used its entire life to nurture one fire. Now that the twin red pagoda had absorbed such a large amount of fire elements, it had almost emptied the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rifts fire elements. In that case, where did the life-form sacrificial fire that the twin red pagoda had absorbed go? Lin Yuan did not command the source sand to dig the twin red pagoda's roots. Instead, he dug the soil under the twin red pagoda's main flower. Since the twin red pagoda had already regarded Lin Yuan as one of its own, it did not make any defensive measures. After digging for a while, Lin Yuan found that the twin red pagoda's main flower's roots were completely rooted in an exquisite golden disc. Read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 270. He could feel that the golden disc was frantically absorbing the fire elemental energy from the twin red pagoda's main flower through its roots. It was almost the entire Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's fire elemental energy. After sensing it, he found that the fire elemental energy that the twin red pagoda absorbed was not directly transmitted into this golden disc. Instead, the fire elemental energy was stored in the twin red pagoda's body. However, the enormous amount of spiritual energy contained within these fire elements was completely absorbed by the golden disc without leaving a single drop behind. The enormous amount of spirit qi absorbed by the golden disc was transformed from the fire elemental energy absorbed by the life-form sacrificial fire. The massive spirit qi in the life-form sacrificial fire was absorbed by the golden disc. As the twin red pagoda flower that nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire, it naturally had to desperately absorb the fire element to replenish the massive spirit qi consumed by the life-form sacrificial fire. This was because the auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda was, to a certain extent, the mother of the life-form sacrificial fire. This was also the reason why the twin red pagoda flower had clearly nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire and completed its mission, but it still did not wither. At this moment, a red color that was more beautiful than the twin red pagoda leaf shone in the cave. As the red crystal-like luster flashed, it condensed into a woman with red hair, red eyes, and scarlet red leather armor. As soon as Lin Yuan saw this red-haired, red-eyed woman wearing scarlet leather armor, he said with a smile, "You're right. Mother of Bloodbath, why did you suddenly transform into a human form?" He had watched the Mother of Bloodbath undergo the celestial stairway baptism from Suzerain/Myth I to Suzerain/Myth II. It could even be said that if Lin Yuan had not activated the Spirit Gather Goldfish's Spirit Qi imprint and activated Morbius Pure Land of Bliss to help the Mother of Bloodbath heal its damaged roots, the Spirit Gather Goldfish would not have survived. In that case, the Mother of Bloodbath might have perished during the world cleansing when it advanced from Suzerain/Myth I to Suzerain/Myth II. However, the Mother of Bloodbath had been at Suzerain/Myth II for such a long time. The Mother of Bloodbath had remained in its fey form, apart from transforming into a human form when it accepted the world grace after completing the world cleansing. This was the second time he had seen the Mother of Bloodbath transform into a human form. At that moment, the Mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice was full of seriousness. "Lin Yuan, do you recognize the metal and metal disc used in this metal disc?" Lin Yuan nodded at first and then shook his head. He was no stranger to this golden metal, as it was the spirit-trapping metal. However, spirit-trapping gold was generally used to create fey storage boxes. It was the fey storage box with the grade. The more, it, true, and the metal, and Lin Yuan really couldn't figure out what this golden disc, which looked like it was mostly made of spirit-trapping metal and the other metals inlaid in the various engraved symbols on the disc, was made of spiritual materials. P. And 1, gold, 2 fire, 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 and. The mother of Bloodbath looked up at the scarlet flame vortex in the sky and said in a cold voice. I didn't expect the Dark Federation's spatial product to appear in the Radiance Federation's territory. Furthermore, it's inside the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift near the royal capital. When Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath's words, he immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. The mother of Bloodbath's crimson eyes suddenly seemed to burn, and its body flashed with a crystal red blood luster. A 2-centimeter-long spider that looked like it was carved out of red crystals appeared in the mother of Bloodbath's hand. The mother of Bloodbath placed the spider in Lin Yuan's hand and said, I'm going to take a look at the hub of this Class 3-dimensional rift that connects to the Abyss world. I am going to take a look at the hub that connects the Class 3-dimensional rift to the Abyss realm. Since someone is scheming in the dark, then the person who is scheming in the dark will not be able to do so. Now that the flame vortex has appeared and exposed the matter, the person who is scheming will not be able to sit still. Lin Yuan nodded and said, Mother of Bloodbath, go ahead. Go ahead, Mother of Bloodbath. I'll wait for you outside the valley after collecting the life-form sacrificial fire. The mother of Bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan, and a trace of warmth flashed in its originally cold crimson eyes. Inject spiritual power into this red spider when you encounter danger. After saying that, the mother of Bloodbath's figure suddenly disappeared from the cave like a broken red crystal mirror. Lin Yuan looked at the golden disc in his hand. It was his first time seeing it. However, he knew quite a lot about the phase storage box. When Lin Yuan had first become the Moon Empress disciple, he had asked about the phase storage box during his first question and answer session with the Moon Empress. After the Moon Empress explanation, Lin Yuan learned that Ostrich Logistics was not a giant that monopolized the logistics industry in the Radiance Federation. Ostrich Logistics was actually a special organization that the Radiance Federation's officials secretly supported. Ostrich Logistics was responsible for manufacturing all the spatial equipment used to store phase and spiritual materials in the Radiance Federation. All the spatial equipment used to store phase and spiritual materials in the Radiance Federation had a unified design specification, which was the phase storage box. In the Radiance Federation, only the phase storage boxes from normal to bronze to diamond were produced by Ostrich Logistics. The spirit trapping gold was not something that was hard to come by. However, under the jurisdiction of the Radiance Federation, other logistics industries were not allowed to produce spatial equipment except for Ostrich Logistics. If one wanted to use spatial equipment, they could only go to Ostrich Logistics to order the phase storage box they needed. The phase storage gold and some special techniques to create spatial items could have a variety of shapes and functions. From the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan knew that this golden metal disc in front of him was a spatial equipment from the Dark Federation. The Radiance Federation's territory was simply too big, and Lin Yuan did not dare to say that he knew many things in the Radiance Federation. Therefore, Lin Yuan had hardly asked the Moon Empress about the world outside the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan only knew about the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation, as only the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation could compete with the Radiance Federation in this world. The structure of this huge world was the Radiance Federation, the Freedom Federation, and the Azure Federation. Hundreds of small federations formed a single entity and formed this huge world map. Only those factions with world-class strategic resources, the floating island whale, were qualified to stir up trouble in this huge world. This was indeed Lin Yuan's first time hearing about the Dark Federation. Lin Yuan tried to inject his spiritual power into the golden metal disc, and he suddenly realized that there was quite a lot of space inside. Although this space was not as big as the diamond phase storage box, it was comparable to the platinum phase storage box. When Lin Yuan looked at the golden metal disc, he saw that there was only a small tree that was about half a meter tall and looked very elegant and strange. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 271. In this golden metal disc, there was nothing else except this half-meter tall, elegant, and strange small tree. The leaves on this small tree were a pure gold color. This gold was not as tacky as the color of metal. It was like the color emitted by the most dazzling sun in the afternoon. The trunk and branches of this elegant and strange small tree were a very simple brown. However, there were strange patterns on the brown tree trunk, and Lin Yuan felt that these patterns were very familiar. Lin Yuan immediately remembered the phoenix feather that Hu Quan had carved on the parasol wood shelf in his spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan felt that the patterns on this elegant and strange small tree's trunk and branches were somewhat similar to the phoenix feather that Hu Quan had carved on the parasol wood. However, the patterns on the parasol wood in his spirit lock spatial zone had been artificially carved, while those on this elegant and strange small tree's trunk and branches had grown naturally. The golden leaves on the branches of this small tree were in the shape of 5 claws. In Lin Yuan's opinion, they were a bit like the claws of avian fays, but they were not as sharp as the claws of avian fays. This half-meter-tall elegant and strange small tree grew toward the south. Its branches and leaves were wrapped together like a golden bird's nest. The more Lin Yuan looked at it, the more he felt that this half-meter-tall small tree's branches and leaves were growing in the shape of a bird's nest. The leaves that surrounded the bird's nest seemed to have a layer of fine fluff, which emitted a soft halo and had a kind of holy beauty. The phoenix feather-like patterns on the trunk were absorbing the huge spirit chi from the roots of the twin red pagoda's main flower. They flowed with a dazzling golden halo and looked magical and extraordinary. Lin Yuan did not know what kind of fae this elegant and strange small tree was and what use it had. However, as long as he summoned it and used Morbius true data to take a look, he would know. However, Lin Yuan did not want to summon this elegant and strange small tree that looked like a bird's nest from the golden disk. If he rashly summoned this elegant and strange small tree, he would lose the spiritual power it was absorbing from the roots of the twin red pagoda's main flower. If all of the flame energy in the flame vortex was poured into it, it was very likely that unpredictable changes would occur. The auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda had already nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire. As long as the little golden tree's absorption of spirit energy from the roots of the main flower of the twin red pagoda was cut off, the auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda would probably wither in an instant after sensing the life-form sacrificial fire that had long matured. If the auxiliary flower withered, the original twin red pagoda would only be left with an almost withered main flower and a mature life-form sacrificial fire. The life-form sacrificial fire was ranked 7th among all fire attribute spiritual materials in the world mainly because of its original characteristics. If a large amount of fire element was poured into the red vortex, the life-form sacrificial fire's essence, which contained vitality, might be changed by the large amount of fire element and transform into a new type of flame. However, no matter how powerful the transformed flame was, it was no longer the life-form sacrificial fire. Just like the elemental shellfish, although it had become stronger after evolving to bronze grade, it had lost its original function. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only take a risk and see if he could save the twin red pagoda's main flower and let it absorb the huge fire element energy in the red vortex. Lin Yuan now had some doubts that the twin red pagoda was not a twin at first. It was because the red pagoda, which had been used to nurture the strange little golden tree in this golden disk, had used all its strength to grow a side sprout and find a way out for the life-form sacrificial fire that it had used all its strength to nurture. It was precisely because of this evolution in the crisis that the normal red pagoda had mutated into the twin red pagoda. The main flower of the mutated twin red pagoda had yet to nurture a mature life-form sacrificial fire. Therefore, only the auxiliary flower had to dissipate. What Lin Yuan had to do was let the main flower absorb the fire element energy in the red flame. This could ensure that the life-form sacrificial fire nurtured by the auxiliary flower would not mutate under this fire element. It could even ensure that the twin red pagoda's main flower would bloom again and nurture a new life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan called out to Morbius in his heart. Morbius, what are the chances of using the pure land of bliss to heal the twin red pagoda's main flower? Morbius' voice sounded in Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. Lin Yuan, as long as you're willing to use a spirit chi crystal, the large amount of pure spirit chi contained in the spirit chi crystal can directly revive the twin red pagoda's main flower. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan took out a spirit chi crystal from his spirit lock spatial zone without hesitation. If the twin red pagoda's main flower revived and could nurture another lifeform sacrificial fire, Lin Yuan would be willing to use 10 spirit chi crystals, let alone 1 spirit chi crystal. Through Morbius spirit chi condensation in the spirit lock spatial zone, it only took about 7 days to condense a spirit chi crystal. This was only the effect of Morbius skills in the bronze/fantasy breed state. If Morbius advanced to a silver/fantasy breed, the effect of its spirit chi condensation would become stronger. The condensed spirit chi crystal would contain higher spirit chi content. It had been more than a month since Lin Yuan had finished enhancing the source-type source sand from bronze X/fantasy I to gold I/fantasy I. In the spirit lock spatial zone, there were 6 more spirit chi crystals in the small limestone bowl. Lin Yuan naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity to use a spirit chi crystal that could be condensed in 7 days to exchange for a red pagoda. As long as he had a red pagoda and nurtured it, it would be equivalent to having another life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan took out the spirit chi crystal and placed it on the twin red pagoda's main flower. Then, he used force with his fingers to crush the crystal. The moment Lin Yuan crushed the spirit chi crystal, Lin Yuan immediately severed the connection between the golden disc and the twin red pagoda's main flower. The moment the connection between the twin red pagoda's main flower and the golden disc was severed, the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower withered instantly. The twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower withered instantly, and a burning emerald green flame appeared where the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower had been. He stretched out his hand and grasped the life-form sacrificial fire, which was like a burning emerald. The life-form sacrificial fire in front of him felt like warm water that contained a huge amount of vitality. It was not hot at all, and it was exceptionally warm when held in his palm. Although the life-form sacrificial fire was a strange flame, it did not have the burning characteristics of a flame. Instead, it contained a strong vitality. The vitality contained in the life-form sacrificial fire made Lin Yuan feel terrified. The life-form sacrificial fire was indeed worthy of being able to replace a plant phase tree heart and give them a new life. As he looked at the burning emerald green life-form sacrificial fire, Lin Yuan suddenly entered a wonderful state of epiphany. He was no stranger to this wonderful state of epiphany. Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 272. Lin Yuan had personally experienced the Mother of Bloodbath's advancement from Myth I to Myth II. After the Mother of Bloodbath obtained new life after destruction, Lin Yuan vaguely had a feeling of epiphany. However, Lin Yuan could vaguely feel this feeling of epiphany, but he could not touch it. On Leaning Moon Mountain, Lin Yuan had seen the Diamond X/Legend Silver Stamen Gold Luster Kasha at the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance comprehend the willpower rune and promote to suzerain. In order to accumulate energy, the flowers and green leaves on the tree had withered, just waiting for the next bloom. Such a scene gave Lin Yuan another layer of understanding of the indistinct feeling that he could not touch before. He now saw the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower using its entire life to nurture a fire. Although the auxiliary flower had withered, it had obtained new life through the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan only felt that a willpower rune containing the will to nurture new life in destruction had suddenly appeared in his spiritual spatial zone. There were only 2 willpower runes left in Lin Yuan's spiritual spatial zone. One was the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended during the extreme slaughter in the dimensional rift outside Redbud City's Xia region. The other was the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended during the new life after destruction. Although this willpower rune contained endless vitality, it was different from the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had obtained from watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. However, it was different from the willpower rune that he had obtained from watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. This kind of destruction referred to the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had obtained after watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. This kind of destruction referred to the stimulation of one's potential after being riddled with scars, using the state of destruction to welcome a new life. The willpower rune obtained from the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation was suitable for healing type phase. However, this willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended was suitable for combat-type phase. It had a feeling of tidying up the old mountains and rivers and regrouping to fight again. Somehow, Lin Yuan felt that this willpower rune that he had obtained from destruction was more suitable for Red Thorn than the willpower rune that he had obtained during the extreme slaughter. Lin Yuan's epiphany was completed in an instant. He had now comprehended 6 willpower runes. He had given one to the Jasmine Lily for it to become a fantasy breed, and one to Chimey for it to become a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan had used up the other 2 when he was contracting the source sand. The remaining 2 willpower runes were not suitable for the Spirit Gather Goldfish, Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, or Genius, regardless of whether it was the willpower rune that had been comprehended during the extreme massacre or the willpower rune that had just been comprehended during the destruction. However, these 2 willpower runes were suitable for Red Thorn. It was just that Lin Yuan would have to carefully consider which willpower rune to use when Red Thorn became a fantasy breed. Just as he crushed the spirit chi crystal that he had just taken out and placed on the twin red pagoda's main flower's head. The main flower of the twin red pagoda greedily absorbed the extremely pure spirit chi that gushed out of the broken spirit chi crystal. The scarlet flame on the head of the main flower and the wisp of green in the scarlet flame, which was thinner than a strand of hair, slowly grew stronger under the infusion of the pure spiritual energy. At this moment, the red vortex in the sky was filled with flowing flames of fire elemental energy. He let the twin red pagoda's remaining main flower receive the fire elemental energy in the flame vortex. He watched as the twin red pagoda's main flower grew little by little under the nourishment of such a huge amount of fire elemental energy. In the end, a few red buds even faintly emerged on the main flower. In the twin red pagoda's main flower's weak red flame, that wisp of green was constantly jumping like a dying old man suddenly giving birth to the vitality of a young man. It would still take a long time for the twin red pagoda's main flower to completely absorb the fire elemental energy in the red vortex. At that moment, Lin Yuan calmed down and checked the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. After checking it, he was rather delighted by the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. This golden metal disc-shaped spatial equipment would save him a lot of effort in the future. Lin Yuan had to deal with the energy ores in the spirit pool in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone regularly to replenish the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. This was because only when spiritual energy was injected into the Radiance Federation standard phase storage box could the internal and external space be connected. Therefore, every time Lin Yuan wanted to replenish the energy ores in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, he had to put in a lot of effort. However, this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment was different from the Radiance Federation's phase storage box. This golden disc-shaped spatial equipment had always maintained a state of connection between the outside and the inside. Lin Yuan only needed to fill this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment with energy ores and place it at the bottom of the spirit pool. Then, before the energy ores in this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment were consumed, Lin Yuan did not need to deal with them like before. This could save Lin Yuan the effort of dealing with the energy ores on a daily basis. The energy ores in the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment were enough to be used for a long time in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. After all, the size of this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment was comparable to a platinum phase storage box. With a thought, Lin Yuan summoned the strange golden small tree from the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. He used Morbius True Data to check this strange golden small tree, but it gave him a big shock. After the shock, Lin Yuan's face revealed a hint of joy that could not be hidden. It had always been very difficult for Lin Yuan to enhance a fantasy breed phase quality. If Lin Yuan wanted to enhance a fantasy breed phase quality into a fantasy breed phase quality, it would be extremely slow. If Lin Yuan wanted to enhance his fantasy breed phase quality into a fantasy breed phase quality, it would be like an old bull pulling a train. When his first Jasmine Lily had evolved into a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan had experimented and wanted to enhance the Jasmine Lily's quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. At that time, Lin Yuan had needed close to a month to enhance the Jasmine Lily's quality from Silver I to Fantasy I. However, Lin Yuan had only tried for 5 days before he decided to give up on enhancing the jasmine lily's quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. As Lin Yuan had been injecting a large amount of pure spirit qi into the jasmine lily's body in the spirit lock spatial zone over the past 5 days, he had realized that it did not help much in enhancing the jasmine lily's quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. It could even be said that during these 5 days, Lin Yuan had not felt any improvement in the jasmine lily's quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. Lin Yuan had asked his master, the Moon Empress, and found out that after a Fae became a fantasy breed, the improvement in quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy V had little to do with the Fae's potential. As long as a fantasy breed Fae reached Diamond in Fantasy V, it would have a chance to evolve into a myth breed Fae. Therefore, Lin Yuan was at ease to enhance his Faes, which were already at bronze/fantasy breed, normally. It was no longer the same as before, when he was promoting a Fae to a fantasy breed. He was afraid that it would affect the Fae's potential after becoming a fantasy breed, so he would be stuck at bronze X/legend. He would read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 273. It could be said that the biggest problem that Lin Yuan had faced before was to raise the quality of his fantasy breed phase from Fantasy I to Fantasy V. Lin Yuan had asked Morbius about the spirit chi crystals condensed by Morbius spirit chi condensation in the spirit lock spatial zone. If he wanted to increase the quality of the fantasy breed phase from Fantasy I to Fantasy II, he would need at least 100 of them. It would take Morbius at least 2 years to condense these hundreds of spirit chi crystals. Such a period of time was truly too long for Lin Yuan. Furthermore, this was only to upgrade the fantasy breed phase from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. Therefore, even if Lin Yuan had extremely powerful creation master abilities and could do things that other creation masters could not do, he still needed to upgrade the fantasy breed phase. From Fantasy I to Fantasy V, he wanted to upgrade his fantasy breed phase from Fantasy I to Fantasy V. They could only be like other spirit chi professionals and search for natural treasures that could help improve their fantasy breed phase quality. These natural treasures that could improve the quality of fantasy breed phase had a general name. They were Heaven and Earth phase. Heaven and Earth phase were different from ordinary phase. Ordinary phase could be contracted by spirit chi professionals. They had grade, quality, skills, and exclusive skills. However, these Heaven and Earth phase were just like the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia that could increase spiritual energy and the sacrificial fire that could nurture the lifeform sacrificial fire. Such Heaven and Earth phase could not be contracted by spirit chi professionals. Such Heaven and Earth phase might have grade and quality, but they did not have skills or exclusive skills. Instead of calling a Heaven and Earth spirit object a spirit object that could grow, it would be more accurate to call it a spirit material that could grow. Every Heaven and Earth Fae had its own unique effects. For example, the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia that Lin Yuan had previously obtained could bear fruits that could increase spiritual energy, while the sacrificial fire could nurture the lifeform sacrificial fire. The strange and elegant small tree that Lin Yuan had just taken out from the golden disc was such a Heaven and Earth Fae. The Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone was a relatively common Heaven and Earth Fae. The Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone was already Gold 8/flawless. When the Gold 8/flawless Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia was upgraded to Platinum, it would ripen and bear fruits that could restore mental strength. Once a spirit item like the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia bore a fruit that could restore one's spiritual energy, its grade would no longer increase. When the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia reached the Platinum level, it was equivalent to entering the mature stage. After that, all the accumulated energy would be contributed to the fruit that would form. Of course, once the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia reached maturity, its quality could still be improved. A Heaven and Earth phase quality could be upgraded to Legend at most. The higher the quality of the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia, the better the effect of the spirit-restoring fruit would be. Based on true data, the twin red pagoda in front of him had already reached Platinum/Epic. As for the fire sacrifice, it would only reach its mature stage when it reached the platinum grade. Only the twin red pagoda that had reached maturity could nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. However, the energy contained in the twin red pagoda's main flower had been absorbed by the strange and elegant little tree. Therefore, the twin red pagoda's main flower had entered a dormant state, although its quality and grade remained unchanged. However, it had also injured its origin. If it wanted to recover its origin and condense the life-form sacrificial fire, it would need to be carefully nurtured. Fortunately, Lin Yuan's spirit chi crystal had allowed the twin red pagoda's main flower to absorb a large amount of pure spirit chi and had already awakened from its slumber. In addition, there was a large amount of pure fire attribute energy in this flame vortex. After absorbing this large amount of fire attribute energy, the twin red pagoda's main flower should be able to recover part of its originally damaged origin. Then, it would bloom a red dragon-toothed flower on the withered main flower to nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan had never heard of this strange and elegant little golden forest before. However, with true data, this strange and elegant little golden tree's detailed information solved a huge problem that Lin Yuan had been facing before. This strange and elegant little golden tree-shaped heaven and earth fae was called the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. True data showed that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade had already reached gold I/legend. Lin Yuan did not expect to see a heaven and earth fae that had reached legend before it had matured. The improvement of a heaven and earth fae's grade was not as simple as the improvement of an ordinary fae's grade. The improvement of a heaven and earth phase grade would often consume several times more resources than ordinary phase. This phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade had already reached the limit of a heaven and earth phase grade. However, it was currently only gold and had not reached platinum, and it would still take a long time before it matured. With the information obtained from Morbius True Data, Lin Yuan knew that this phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's survival and evolution not only needed to absorb a large amount of pure spirit chi, but it also had to devour strange flames regularly. As long as there was a large amount of pure spirit chi and strange flames, it could slowly improve the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade. For a heaven and earth fae like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, it was impossible for it to reach legend in its wild state before it matured. If a heaven and earth fae wanted to reach the legend grade, it would have to reach the platinum grade and reach a mature state. After a long period of accumulation, it would be able to reach the legend grade. In other words, this heaven and earth fae had an owner before this phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. It was unknown how much resources the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's previous owner had consumed to allow the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree to reach legend at gold. The life-form sacrificial flame that the heaven and earth fae had nurtured was probably prepared for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's previous owner. The vitality energy contained in the life-form sacrificial flame could even be used as a plant's tree core to give it a second life. It was imaginable how precious the life-form sacrificial flame was to plants. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's owner was clearly planning to use the heaven and earth fae to nurture the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. However, in Lin Yuan's opinion, it was simply too wasteful to use the life-form sacrificial flame to nurture the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The original owner of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was clearly the owner of this clear disc-shaped spatial equipment. No matter what evil ideas this person had in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had changed its name. Now that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had changed its surname to Lin, it belonged to Lin Yuan. Read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw bookstore for free. Chapter 274. A heaven and earth fae like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree would neither produce fruits that increased spiritual energy like the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia nor produce the life-form sacrificial fire like the red pagoda. The heaven and earth fae, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, could not produce anything, but it could purify the bloodline of avian faes and improve their quality. As long as the bird faes rested in the nest made of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches, The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree would slowly dedicate the energy in its body to the bird phase that rested in the nest made of its branches and leaves. The energy in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's body was extremely effective in stimulating the bloodline of bird phase. After checking the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's data, Lin Yuan stored it and the golden disc into his spirit lock spatial zone. If Lin Yuan had previously felt that his greatest gain was the lifeform sacrificial fire, then he now felt that no matter how many lifeform sacrificial fires he had, they could not compare to this immature phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Although Lin Yuan's contracted Chimey had long evolved into a twilight starbird, its foundation had evolved from a sound bird. After Chimey evolved into a twilight starbird, Lin Yuan's pure spirit qi would constantly be injected into it, and its grade would continue to rise. However, if Chimey's bloodline wanted to evolve again, it could only wait for an opportunity. For phase, their bloodline would undergo a qualitative change when they reached bronze. After metamorphosing into a fantasy breed, their bloodline would undergo another qualitative change. Chimey had already gone through the 2 stages of bronze and fantasy breed. Although Chimey's bloodline might also evolve when it increased its grade in the future, the natural bloodline evolution during such a promotion was very slim. For a sound bird like Chimey, which was not even a fae in the beginning, the natural bloodline evolution during such a promotion was very slim. Lin Yuan had always felt that Chimey's evolution path was a little toward the legendary phoenix's path. However, it was not quite the same because Chimey had never given up on its sound type as a sound bird. With this heaven and earth fae, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, Chimey could once again unearth its hidden bloodline as a sound bird. When a fantasy breed fae reached Fantasy 3, there would inevitably be a chance for its bloodline to metamorphose. If Chimey's quality could be upgraded from Fantasy I to Fantasy 3, coupled with the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's purification of its bloodline, it would be able to upgrade its bloodline to Fantasy 3. The moment Chimey's quality reached Fantasy 3 would be the moment Chimey would complete a qualitative leap. This qualitative leap was even greater than when Chimey became a fantasy breed. At the same time, with the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, he no longer had to worry about Chimey's quality improving. As long as Chimey rested in the nest built by the branches and leaves of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, he would constantly feed it with pure spirit qi and strange flames. As a fantasy breed fae, the improvement of Chimey's quality was no longer a problem for him. As long as there was enough time, Chimey would naturally raise its quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy 3 or even Fantasy V. At this moment, the red vortex in the sky had almost been completely absorbed by the twin red pagoda's main flower. The red bud on the main flower of the twin red pagoda had become abnormally plump. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the growth of the twin red pagoda's main flower's petals was almost the same as the petals on the auxiliary flower's petals. The green flame that was originally thinner than a strand of hair in the red flame surrounded by leaves at the top of the twin red pagoda's main flower had now become a vibrant flame. However, even though the green flames were full of spirit, they weren't strong. The red vortex in the sky had completely disappeared. Lin Yuan could feel that his source sand had expanded out of the valley. Many adventurers had set foot in the 2-kilometer radius of the quicksand and were trying their best to trek over. At that moment, Lin Yuan was about to put the twin red pagoda, which had almost recovered, back into the diamond face storage box. The sand at the cave entrance, which Lin Yuan had added ferromanganese metal characteristics, was suddenly blown away by something. A tall and slender young man with bronze skin, peach blossom eyes, and a crew cut flashed in, whistling as he spoke. "Oh, the things here have actually been taken away. What did you put into the face storage box just now? Give me the things here, and I'll let you go." Lin Yuan raised his brows. "Are you going to rob me?" This youth with a pair of peach blossom eyes and a crew cut originally had a cold expression, but he was stunned by Lin Yuan's words. "The treasures in the world belong to the capable. You picked up the spoils of war in this valley first, so I can only take them from you if I want them." Lin Yuan's voice was still very calm, but he was ready to fight. "So you still want to rob me of my spoils of war?" When the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut heard Lin Yuan's next words, he immediately became a little unwilling. Spoils of war can only be guarded with strength. This Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift isn't like the outside. If you're not careful, you'll fall. After saying that, the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut circulated his spiritual power. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw a 15-meter-long giant crocodile covered in flashing lightning appear in this small cave. This giant crocodile covered in flashing lightning was covered in thick, pure white armor, but it didn't look clumsy at all. Instead, it looked very nimble. The giant crocodile's eyes had a thunderous bluish-purple color, and it had an oppressive feeling like a prehistoric giant beast. All of a sudden, the giant crocodile's tail swung and lashed on the cave wall. After being roasted by the flowing flames in the huge flame whirlpool, the originally narrow cave had long been dehydrated and had started to crack. The 15-meter-long, pure white crocodile's tail, which was covered in lightning, lashed out at the cave wall, which had long since lost its moisture, causing the cave to collapse. The collapsed walls of the cave turned into fine dust and sand as they collapsed onto the ground at the source. Sand had modified, filling the sky with dust. When the dust was blown by the Abyss Dimensional Rift's sulfuric smell, it was a little choking. When Lin Yuan saw the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut, he didn't recognize who he was. However, when this young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut summoned this giant crocodile, Lin Yuan immediately knew this young man's identity. When Lin Yuan had checked the strength of the Radiance 100 sequence members on Star Web, he had focused on this young man's information. Lin Yuan had focused on this young man's information because he was at the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. It was also because this young man's talent was simply too special. Thunder Element Phase were mostly good at attacking, but this young man's Fey affinity was for Defense-type Thunder Element Phase. Defense-type Thunder Element Phase were considered a very unorthodox and minority type of Fey. Defense-type Thunder Element Phase were very rare. A very ordinary Defense-type Thunder Element Bronze Fey was already comparable in price to a better type of Power Offense-type Thunder Element Gold Fey. At the same time, most of the Defense-type Thunder Element Phase abilities and exclusive skills were very unorthodox. However, this young man used a Defense-type Thunder Element Fey and walked the path of traditional Defense-type Spirit Chi professionals. He was the leader of the Radiance Federation's younger generation Defense-type Spirit Chi professionals. This young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut was the Radiance 100 Sequences number 6, Shirsu, who was known as the Berserk Thunder Feast. Of course, as the Radiance 100 Sequences number 6 on Star Web, apart from the title, Berserk Thunder Feast, Shirsu also had the title, Working Emperor. However, Lin Yuan didn't know the meaning of this title. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 275. At that moment, the temperature in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was slowly rising. When the massive scarlet flame vortex vanished, the sealed Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had already returned to normal. Large amounts of fire elements were pouring in from the controlled Class 3 Dimensional Rift that was connected to the Abyss World's hub. It immediately returned the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to its original temperature of close to 50 degrees Celsius. The temperature suddenly rose from less than 20 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. It was like a person who had just come out of ice water and was locked in a sauna. The adventurers in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift were immediately unable to breathe for a long time. Outside the completely collapsed cave, the flying dust was gradually dispersed by the wind. Lin Yuan used true data to check on the 15-meter-long pure white giant crocodile covered in lightning. Fey name, Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile. Fey species, Muscle Crocodile/Armored Crocodile. Fey grade, Platinum, 4 out of 10. Fey type, Thunder. Fey quality, Fantasy Eye abilities. Frowny face tail block, uses the sturdy armor on the giant tail to resist damage. Muscle Thunder energy, quickly mobilize the energy in the body's muscles to generate a large amount of thunder energy. Rapid Thunder armor, quickly forms a layer of lightning armor around the target, helping to block damage from the outside world. Thunder Armor Amplification. Increase the Rapid Thunder Armor's hardness and ability to withstand damage. When the Rapid Thunder Armor is unable to resist, it will automatically replenish the thunder energy produced by the muscle thunder energy. 100 Armor Demonstration. Instantly explode the thunder energy stored in the body to form hundreds of Rapid Thunder Armor. At the same time, the thunder energy contained in the Rapid Thunder Armor can be condensed into 1 point for effective defense. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Sturdy Thunder Pattern. Generate a thunder pattern in the thunder that can increase sturdiness. When the thunder pattern is broken, it will instantly release a large amount of thunder energy. Leaping Thunder Pattern. The released thunder is always in an active state. When attacked, the thunder will explode outward and cancel out the attack. A portion of the attack energy will be assimilated into active thunder energy. This 15-meter-long, pure white giant crocodile covered in lightning was the same as Shirsu's signature Fey on Star Web. It was the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile. Ever since Lin Yuan possessed the ability of a creation master, he had seen some defense-type Feys. However, most of these defense-type and thunder-type Feys had mediocre aptitudes. This Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile should be a low-grade defense-type, thunder attribute crocodile species Fey that had evolved. However, he did not know which low-grade thunder attribute crocodile species Fey it had evolved from. Even with Morbius True data, he still could not see what low-grade crocodile species defense-type thunder element Fey this Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile had evolved from. Take Chimey as an example. Even Class 5 creation masters like Bamboo Monarch, Chef Supreme, and even Lin Yuan's master, the Moon Empress, had personally studied it. He could not tell that the Silver I/Fantasy I Chimey had evolved from a sound bird that could not even be considered a Fey. The Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's evolution was the same as Chimey's. Its bloodline had been purified and reborn. In his opinion, Chimey was evolving in the direction of a phoenix and purifying its bloodline. This Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was evolving in the direction of a dragon. However, this Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was evolving in the direction of a dragon, not a prehistoric dragon. Instead, it was evolving in the direction of the Flood Dragon bloodline, which was on par with the phoenix in the ancient books. Although this Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was still a crocodile at first glance, its body was not as bloated as a normal crocodile's. Its limbs were also not crawling on the ground like a normal crocodile's. Instead, its forelimbs were long and looked like it was lying on the ground. If a Fey, especially a rare defense type, thunder attribute Fey, could evolve in the direction of a flood dragon, it was equivalent to having infinite possibilities in terms of aptitude. However, Lin Yuan had seen Long Tao's Platinum X/Fantasy 3 Sea King Chalk Mosasaur in the Radiant Moon Palace, so he knew that this Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was definitely not Shirsu's strongest Fey. The Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile might be Shirsu's signature Fey. However, with just this Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, it was impossible for Shirsu to firmly occupy the 6th position in the Radiance 100 sequence. Sure enough, as Lu Jie had said, the Radiance 100 sequence members were all very sinister. Most of the Feys revealed were Feys that had been used in the selection competition when they had just entered the Radiance 100 sequence. As for their growth over the years after entering the Radiance 100 sequence, they had been hidden and were only waiting for the right time to show their edge. However, Lin Yuan had to admit that this Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was really powerful. It was said that most defense-type Thunder attribute Fey's abilities and exclusive skills were rather strange. This was because Thunder was very violent and had strong offensive power. It was not as suitable for defense as water and earth elements. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's abilities and exclusive skills were still the same. The Platinum /Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's normal ability, Tail Block, could be said to be a standard ability that could effectively help the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile block high-intensity attacks. As for the remaining abilities, Muscle Thunder Energy, thunder armor amplification, and 100 armor demonstration, they were actually increasing the defensive ability of the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's silver ability, the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection. It made the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection's defensive ability more solid and diverse. Muscle Thunder Energy could effectively increase the amount of thunder elements that the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could control. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was a 15-meter-long prehistoric beast, and its body contained a lot of energy. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could quickly convert the energy in its body into a large amount of thunder elements according to Muscle Thunder Energy. Thunder Armor Amplification could maintain the strength of the armor formed by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's Rapid Thunder Armor Protection by consuming the thunder elemental power that it could control. In other words, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could only break the armor formed by the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection when there was not a single drop of thunder elements that it could control. 100 Armor Demonstration could turn the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection from a single defense into a group defense. It could also greatly increase the efficiency of the use of thunder elements. It could condense the thunder elements in the thunder armor at one point and use the extremely dense thunder elements to resist damage. It could be said that just based on the Platinum/Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's abilities, the Platinum/Fantasy I Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could be considered a top-notch defense-type Fae. Moreover, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's two exclusive skills, Sturdy Thunder Pattern and Leaping Thunderbolt, were both under the premise of strengthening the Rapid Thunder Armor's defensive ability. At the same time, it also greatly increased the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's endurance. The large amount of thunder energy released by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's exclusive skill, Sturdy Thunder Pattern, was enough to instantly replenish the Rapid Thunder Armor's consumption. As for the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's second exclusive skill, Leaping Thunderbolt, it directly used the Thunder Element's attack characteristics. However, the Thunder Element's attack characteristics were cleverly used by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile for defense. By colliding with the Thunder Elemental energy and the attacked energy, it offset the pressure that the Rapid Thunder Armor needed to bear in defense. Regardless of what trump cards Sure Su had been hiding in the past few years as a Radiance 100 sequence member, Sure Su's signature Fae, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, was enough to make Sure Su the #1 defense-type spirit chi professional among the Radiance Federation's younger generation. And 26168103277:2019-12-1009:29:44 and Beast Evolution Quotient Latest Chapter 2775 Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile website. Chapter 276. Although Chu Ci was also a defense-type spirit chi professional, she had a heart that desperately wanted to be reckless. Although Sure Su's Faes were all thunder type, he had taken the path that a traditional defense-type spirit chi professional should take. In the team, a defense-type spirit chi professional like Sure Su was far more popular than a reckless defense-type spirit chi professional like Chu Ci. Sure Su stood where he was, his peach blossom eyes narrowed under his crew cut. Do you see that? This is strength. Obediently hand over the thing burning with red flames that you just put away, and I'll let you go. Lin Yuan's eyes also narrowed behind his mask. What if I don't hand it over? Sure Su reached out and scratched his head. Looking at your outfit, you're imitating black, right? Someone who idolizes black shouldn't be a bad person, so I can be a little gentler. Lin Yuan raised his brows behind his mask and said, "It seems that I have to hand it over in your eyes." As he spoke, he circulated the spiritual power in his body and quickly conducted the spirit chi into the land under his feet through his feet. As he spoke, he circulated the spiritual power in his body and quickly transmitted the spirit chi into the ground through his feet. This time, the range of the quicksand boiling was not limited to the vicinity of the valley within a radius of 1 to 2 kilometers. The quicksand boiling under his feet was not limited to the vicinity of the valley within a radius of 1 to 2 kilometers. Instead, Lin Yuan made all the sand grains that the source sand had accumulated over the past month agitated. The agitated quicksand brought all the adventurers who were trying to trek across the sea of sand back to the edge of the sea of sand. At the same time, under the injection of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, the color of the sand grains within a radius of 2 kilometers became darker. The color of the sand grains slowly changed from the original brownish yellow to purplish black. The surface of these purplish black sand grains also carried a layer of black-blue metallic luster, which came from the ferromanganese. At that moment, Lin Yuan urged the source sand with all his might. The source sand mobilized all the sand grains that it had obtained by grinding hard ores in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift over the past month. These hard sand grains were all plated with a thin layer of the bronze ferromanganese. Shi Su looked at the quicksand that suddenly boiled and jumped onto the platinum /fantasy eye silent thunder armored crocodile's back. He could feel the quicksand trying to drag the platinum /fantasy eye silent thunder armored crocodile underground from all directions. Shi Su made the platinum /fantasy eye silent thunder armored crocodile surge with a large amount of thunder element to resist the boiling quicksand. Lin Yuan realized that even though the gold /fantasy eye source sand could already resist platinum phase after accumulating sand grains for over a month, it still could not do anything to the silent thunder armored crocodile. This was because the platinum /fantasy eye silent thunder armored crocodile had already surpassed the strength of a platinum Fey and reached the combat power of a diamond Fey. Shi Su, who was standing on the back of the silent thunder armored crocodile, said in surprise. So you were the one who caused the boiling quicksand in the valley. You're much stronger than Black now. Before Shi Su could finish speaking, Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned a Fey that seemed to emit a peony-like purple halo when it flapped its wings. Shi Su's surprise was written all over his face. This Fey was the blue flash purple butterfly, which had a peony-like halo when it flapped its wings and emitted a luxurious purple light shadow. As soon as he summoned the blue flash purple butterfly, Shi Su immediately felt a little embarrassed. He had said so much, but this silver-masked fellow was actually black. Looking at the boiling and boundless quicksand in front of him, Shi Su knew that the strength that Black had displayed on Star Web had been a concealment. Black's true strength was far from as simple as what he had shown on Star Web. Black's Fays were very easy to identify. Whether it was the silver/fantasy breed bird species Fay, the strange plant that could spread a sea of flowers, or the blue flash purple butterfly, they could all directly represent Black's identity. This was because these Fays were unique to Black among the currently known Fays. After summoning the bronze X/legend blue flash purple butterfly, he immediately let it release a large amount of silent scale powder into the quicksand grains that the source sand had spawned. Given the bronze blue flash purple butterfly's current standard, it was impossible for the silent scale powder to break through the platinum /fantasy eye silent thunder armored crocodile's protective energy layer. Therefore, he could use the quicksand grains spawned by the source sand as the carrier of the blue flash purple butterfly's silent scale powder. This would allow the silent scale powder to have a chance to attach to the silent thunder armored crocodile. If it was another power offense type spirit chi professional with a platinum/fantasy breed Fey, he would not have any chance of winning. If he did not use the trump card left by the Mother of Bloodbath or the Moon Empress, he would not have any chance of winning. However, Shi Su was a defense-type spirit chi professional and took the traditional defense-type spirit chi route. He did not have any powerful offensive ability. Therefore, he had a chance to fight. At that moment, Shi Su waved his hand and said, "No more fighting, no more fighting. No more fighting, no more fighting. I, Shi Su, will not attack my own people." As the Radiance 100 sequence number 6, Shi Su could be considered a top member of the Radiance 100 sequence. As the top expert of the Radiance Federation's younger generation, the Radiance 100 sequence upheld the glory of the Radiance Federation. In particular, Black's battle outside Millstone Town was enough to be called a hero of the Radiance Federation. Therefore, Shi Su would not attack Black for treasures no matter what. If it were other adventurers, Shi Su might not mind telling them that treasures belonged to the capable. However, Radiance's faith made Shi Su always choose to face it. In fact, it was also the faith and choice of the Radiance Hundred's younger generation that allowed the Radiance Federation to constantly become stronger and stronger, allowing the Radiance Federation to stand at the top of this huge world map. This was because unity itself shone with radiant-like light. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that the space around him had darkened. Lin Yuan saw a middle-aged man who looked very strange. This middle-aged man was looking at him with a gaze as if he had just finished his homework and had been torn into pieces in front of him. This time, he would be 10,000 times angrier. Lin Yuan could faintly feel that this middle-aged man seemed to be trembling with anger. However, the moment Lin Yuan looked at the middle-aged man, he immediately became vigilant. This was because he did not have an impression of this middle-aged man's appearance. However, this strange middle-aged man's figure completely overlapped with the figure of the middle-aged man who had been sizing him up at the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts entrance in Genius Tool Transformation Mask. Suddenly, Lin Yuan felt a violent energy fluctuation. However, it was too late for him to condense 4 wings on his back. He only had time to condense half a wing in front of him with the feathers made of the day and night spirit silver. Lin Yuan was not stingy with the spiritual power in his body and poured it into the day and night spirit silver's half-wing. The sudden appearance of this violent energy fluctuation made Lin Yuan feel a fatal threat. Just as Lin Yuan was about to crush the scarlet crystal spider that the mother of Bloodbath had left for him in his palm, in an instant, Lin Yuan's body was protected by a layer of azure thunder armor. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 277. This thunder armor had the unique patterns on the crocodile leather armor. Immediately after, it seemed that Shi Su had summoned another Fae. The extremely oppressive thunder energy condensed an exquisite leaf that seemed to be carved by thunder outside the rapid thunder armor. Lin Yuan saw a black energy collide with the leaf that was completely carved from thunder and lightning. The thunder energy on the surface of this leaf completely carved by thunder flashed violently. Just as the leaf was about to be destroyed, the dark energy beam also completely dissipated. At that moment, Lin Yuan looked sharply at the middle-aged man who was stepping on the Flozan. Even though he had condensed half of his wings into a wing shield and channeled a large amount of spiritual power, the black energy beam had perfectly exerted the day and night spirit silver's buffering power. If he had not crushed the scarlet crystal spider that the mother of Bloodbath had given him, he would have been seriously injured. Upon seeing that its attack had not worked, Crow simply wanted to vomit blood. After becoming a suzerain/myth Fae, when had Crow ever suffered such a loss? It was unknown how much effort Crow had put in to raise the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's quality to legend before it reached maturity. Crow had been stuck at suzerain/myth 2 for many years and had not been able to advance. It could be said that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was the only hope for Crow to purify its bloodline and advance to myth 3. A heaven and earth Fae like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree could be raised to legend at gold. Crow had even used its suzerain/myth 2 blood to feed the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Crow had not hesitated to use the priceless red pagoda as nourishment for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, hoping that it would mature quickly. But now, Crow's own lifeblood had actually been taken away by someone else in this unexpected turn of events. This caused Crow to go crazy. Crow had been using its blood to feed the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Therefore, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's aura carried a trace of Crow's blood. This was also why Crow had attacked with 100% of its power the moment it saw Lin Yuan. This was because Lin Yuan's body was stained with the smell of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree with Crow's blood. However, Crow's main body was now at the seaside hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, completing the task assigned by Lord 7th Page War. Crow was now only using a drop of his blood and relying on his exclusive skill's ability to descend onto this body that had the exclusive imprint. Therefore, Crow's current ability could only be maintained at the standard of Diamond Level 5 Flawless. The hatred in Crow's heart was burning so fiercely that it was about to burn itself into ashes. If there was a person Crow hated the most, it would undoubtedly be Lin Yuan. However, the person Crow hated the second most was not Shirsu, who had helped Lin Yuan block the attack. It was Cheng Wu. If it wasn't for the fact that Cheng Wu had trained this idiot, who acted like he was suffering from anxiety and paranoia and only knew how to observe instead of reporting directly to him, Cheng Wu wouldn't have been so stupid. If he had known that something would happen, he would have immediately taken away the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and the red pagoda in the golden disc, no matter how far away he was. If Crow didn't treat the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift outside of the royal capital as the final stop of his plan, he would have thought that Crow wouldn't have been able to escape. Furthermore, it would make use of the massive fire elements in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to nurture the red pagoda and produce the lifeform sacrificial fire, allowing the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree to devour it and quickly mature. Crow wouldn't let something as important as the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree leave its side. However, Crow now felt a sense of helplessness. His main body could not come over, and the clone formed by his exclusive skill was too weak. Thinking of that, Crow raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. The crow's body was in pain, but in his heart, he felt much better. If not for the fact that the main body's soul had dissipated after Crow's doppelganger descended upon this body, Crow really wanted to drag the original soul out and question it. Why did the Radiance 100 sequence members appear in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, but why didn't they inform him in advance? Shirsu shouted directly. Who are you? How dare you try to kill him? When Crow heard this, he was so angry that he let out a strange crow-like caw. Crow was just about to curse back. Kill my ass. If my main body was here, would have killed all of you. A huge skate with a dark blue body and light blue patterns on its body flew down from the sky. When Crow saw this, he glared at Lin Yuan fiercely. Then, he turned into a black mist and scuttled into the distance. Lin Yuan's palm, which had been tightly gripping the crimson crystal spider, loosened its strength. Lin Yuan turned his head and looked at Shirsu. Shirsu chuckled and pointed at himself with a thumbs up as he said, "My defense is strong, right?" Lin Yuan remembered Shirsu in his heart. As a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, Shirsu had wanted to snatch what was in Lin Yuan's hands. Lin Yuan had not thought of giving in and had intended to resist to the end. However, just before that attack, which was not fatal but was enough to seriously injure or even kill him, Shirsu had helped him block the attack. Shirsu had helped him block the attack. This was a favor. However, when Shirsu had helped him defend at that time, the leaf made of thunder and lightning in front of him was obviously not a power that the Platinum /Fantasy Ice Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could use. Lin Yuan thought of the extremely oppressive thunder-type energy and the leaf condensed from thunder and lightning. This unknown defense-type thunder-type plant should be Shirsu's trump card. Now, Lin Yuan had seen the power of the Radiance 100 sequence's number 6 member revealing his trump card. Lin Yuan now knew the gap between his combat power and the Radiance 100's top combat power. As long as he did not have a Platinum Fantasy Breed Fae, he would not be able to reach the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. In fact, it was not enough for a Platinum Fantasy Breed Fae to reach Fantasy I. It had to be at least Fantasy 3. At this time, the dark blue skate with light blue patterns on its body had already flown close to them. A young girl's exclamation suddenly came from the skate. Fuck. Shirsu, why do I see you everywhere I go? You're really worthy of being the working emperor. When Lin Yuan heard this voice, he felt it was very familiar. He turned around and realized that it was Zhao Xiaochun. Lin Yuan looked at the people on the skate's back and realized that he knew them. He could not help but sigh. The controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift near the royal capital was really strange. At that moment, 4 members of the Radiance 100 sequence had actually gathered here. Radiance 100 sequence number 3, Overflowing Sea, Long Tao. Radiance 100 sequence number 6, Thunder Feast, Shirsu. Radiance 100 sequence number 21, Anorexia, Zhao Xiaochun. Radiance 100 sequence number 43, Fang Duo Duo. According to Lu Jia, Zhao Xiaochun's original title seemed to be Critical Needle Lady. However, after Zhao Xiaochun had applied to the Radiant Sacred Hall for nearly 100 times, the Radiant Sacred Hall had no choice but to change her official title to Anorexia. When Shi Su heard Zhao Xiaochun's voice, his eyes instantly turned red. He looked at Zhao Xiaochun fiercely and roared. Zhao Xiaochun, how dare you call me the Working Emperor? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have become the Working Emperor. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 278. Zhao Xiaochun, who was on the back of this dark blue giant ray with light blue patterns, could not help but roll her eyes when she heard Shi Su's words. Shi Zhu, what does the bankruptcy of your 5 restaurant chains have to do with me, Zhao Xiaochun? I have to spend money when I go to your store. It would have been better if Zhao Xiaochun had not spoken, but Shi Su's eyes turned redder. Zhao Xiaochun, my name is Shi Su, not Shi Zhu. Due to his talent, Shi Su could only contract defense-type and thunder-type phase. Due to the scarcity of defense-type phase and the high cost of nurturing them, Shi Su had always been very short of resources. Putting aside the resources that Shi Su had poured into nurturing his trump cards during the few years he had been a Radiance 100 sequence member, Shi Su had nurtured this platinum /fantasy eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, which had stimulated the Flood Dragon bloodline, in order to ensure that the Flood Dragon bloodline in the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's body was constantly recovering. Shi Su did not know how many Radiance dollars he had to spend. Shi Su had actually saved up a lot of extra money during the few years he had been a Radiance 100 sequence member. With extra money, Shi Su set his sights on investing in restaurant chains. As long as the ingredients in the restaurant were diversified and of relatively high grade, he would not have to worry about not being able to sell them. Shi Su had originally planned to focus on operating these 5 restaurant chains to earn resources for nurturing phase in the future. Shi Su had even spent a lot of money to poach an experienced manager from the Radiance Federation's most famous restaurant, the Spirit Food Pavilion. Everything was ready, but Shi Su's mistake was that he had opened the restaurant as a buffet. Furthermore, Shi Su's 5 buffet restaurant chains had been targeted by Zhao Xiaochun. In less than a year since he had been targeted by Zhao Xiaochun, Shi Su's beautiful dream of accumulating resources through the restaurant chains had been shattered. Shi Su had worked hard for so many years and had lost all his savings. Shi Su had to face the spiritual ingredients and large amounts of resources needed for his phase to evolve. Shi Su gritted his teeth and became a working emperor, working 10 jobs. In fact, Shi Su had come to this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to take the risk. It was also because Shi Su wanted to find as much spare time as possible to accumulate more resources before the start of the S tournament. Shi Su was so angry that he almost started burping. However, before Shi Su could say anything, Zhao Xiaochun tossed the pig trotter that she had gnawed to the bone at the bottom of the giant ray. Shi Su, the pork trotters I am gnawing on now aren't as delicious as the silver tendon black boar's tendon leg. Also, the grilled fish in your shop is also very good. While speaking, Zhao Xiaochun smacked her lips. It was hard to tell whether she was recalling the taste of the pork trotter or the taste of Shi Su's restaurant. Chen Hongfeng and Fang Duo Duo looked at each other and couldn't help but cast a sympathetic look at Shi Su. Shi Su was such a pitiful man. Shi Su angrily slapped the back of the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, making dong-dong sounds. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile thought that its master was playing with it, so it tilted its head and let out a comfortable grunt. However, Shi Su's hand hurt from the impact. Shi Su said angrily, "Zhao Xiaochun, if not for you. The money I earn from 5 chain restaurants every day is enough to buy a bronze/epic fei." Zhao Xiaochun spat and turned around to pull Fang Duo Duo and Chen Hongfeng over. "One of you, wake him up with peeing. Those with diabetes, don't come. Don't let him taste the sweetness." Zhao Xiaochun's words made Lin Yuan, Shi Su, Long Tao, Fang Duo Duo, and Shin Hongfeng break out in cold sweat. How could a girl say such words in public? Long Tao couldn't help but rub his temples, feeling that his head was starting to hurt again. Long Tao now really felt that if Fang Duo and Zhao Xiaochun quarreled in the future, he really couldn't always scold Fang Duo. Given Zhao Xiaochun's performance, Fang Duo was really wronged. Zhao Xiaochun didn't stop no matter who she was with. However, Long Tao's eyes were already fixed on Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had already put away the bronze X/legend blue/purple butterfly. However, Long Tao only needed a glance to identify Lin Yuan's faint aura. Lin Yuan's temperament was very similar to Black's temperament that Long Tao had seen on Star Web. However, Long Tao thought about it carefully and felt that it was different. In the Star Web, Black gave off a silent and aloof feeling. However, Black had a youthful feeling that Long Tao was very familiar with. And now, after seeing Black in reality, Long Tao found that the familiar youthful feeling on Black had become stronger. However, the cold and aloof feeling he gave off on Star Web was gone. Instead, it was a tenacious and indifferent feeling. The more Long Tao paid attention to Black, the more he felt that the familiar feeling Black gave him became stronger. However, Long Tao couldn't remember where this familiar feeling came from. Long Tao jumped onto the back of Plenty's Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray. He walked straight in front of Lin Yuan and said, "Let's go. I'm the captain of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's S Tournament main team, Long Tao. The transfer period for the S Tournament will end in less than 3 days. Our Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team is still lacking a spot. I wonder if you're willing to join the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team?" Before Lin Yuan could react, Shi Su was rather surprised to hear Long Tao's words. Putting aside the fact that Long Tao was the Radiance 100 Sequence 3, just the fact that he was the captain of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's S Tournament main team was enough to not allow him to do things so rashly. The Guild Alliance's S Tournament was about to begin. Why was he inviting others to join the team now? It seemed like the Dragon Gate Guild Club was still lacking a main team member this year. Not only was Shi Su a member of the S Tournament's main team, but his main team, the Rhine Guild Club, had also won the championship of the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance's S Tournament last year. The Rhine Club Union had also become the leader of the many club unions this year. Shi Su had always regarded the Dragon Gate Guild Club as his team's formidable opponent in this year's S Tournament. But now, it seemed that the Dragon Gate Guild Club still had no way to fight with the Rhine Guild Club's main team this year. Be it Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, or another main team member who did not appear here, they were undoubtedly Radiance 100 Sequence members. The Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team's equipment could be said to be very luxurious. If there was another Radiance 100 Sequence member, they could be called an all-star team. The Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team members were strong individually. However, the 4 power offense-type Spirit Chi professionals were equivalent to 4 boorish men. There were no support-type Spirit Chi professionals, defense-type Spirit Chi professionals, or healing-type Spirit Chi professionals to fight in the team. No matter how strong an individual was in the team battle, they would not be able to stand in the S Tournament's team battlefield. This was because the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance's S Tournament was never a one-man game. When Lin Yuan heard Long Tao's abrupt words, he was stunned and then pondered. Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 279. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and shook his head gently. I have no intention of joining anyone's club or union. Lin Yuan was very honest and didn't have any shyness about rejecting someone else's invitation. This was because he had already made plans for the guild club in his heart. When Long Tao heard this, although he was a little disappointed, he was not dispirited. Instead, he smiled and reached out his hand. My name is Long Tao, let's be friends. From Lin Yuan's words, Long Tao understood that Lin Yuan planned to set up his own guild club in the future. It would be a lie to say that Long Tao was not disappointed when he was rejected, but he was only a little disappointed at the beginning. After all, Long Tao had been looking for the silver-masked young man in front of him for a long time. Ever since Long Tao had the idea of recruiting Black to join his team, Long Tao's thoughts had never changed. After Long Tao understood Black's plan, he suddenly felt that Black was a bit like him a few years ago. Long Tao had single-handedly established the Dragon Gate Guild Club after he had made up his mind. It was just that Long Tao thought that when he was at Black's age, if he had received an invitation from the top 3 guilds, he would not have been able to do so. Even if he would refuse, he would not refuse so calmly. For some reason, Long Tao suddenly felt a sense of sympathy for him. However, even if Black did not join the Dragon Gate Guild Club, Long Tao also had his own confidence and trump cards in the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance tournament. That was because Long Tao never liked to place his bets on others. If Long Tao liked to place his bets on others, then he would definitely not be able to sit firmly in the Radiance 100 sequence's 3rd position. The Dragon Gate Guild Club would not have reached the top 3 in last year's tournament. Lin Yuan looked at Long Tao's outstretched hand, and his face behind the mask revealed a sunny smile. He stretched out his hand and shook Long Tao's hand. Long Tao looked at the silver-masked young man before him and praised him. Looking at this valley full of quicksand, I know I should congratulate you in advance for entering the Radiance 100 this year. Long Tao's words startled Lin Yuan. It had been more than a month since he came out to train. His virtual image on the Stairway Tree Achievement Altar should have appeared long ago. The news of him participating in the Radiance 100 sequence selection should have already been publicized by the Radiance Sacred Hall. Lin Yuan immediately thought of Tian Ningning. Tian Ningning was Lin Yuan's exclusive reporter, but he had forgotten to inform her of his news in advance. When Lin Yuan and Tian Ningning had signed the exclusive reporter contract, Tian Ningning's eyes lit up. According to the contents of the exclusive reporter contract, Lin Yuan should inform Tian Ningning of his important matters in advance. This way, Tian Ningning would be able to answer to the Star Web officials. Lin Yuan had really forgotten about these things during this period of time, so he couldn't help but feel a little apologetic toward Tian Ningning. Once he exited the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, he would take the initiative to contact Tian Ningning and tell her all the information he should have told her in one go. After losing contact for more than a month, Tian Ningning was probably going crazy. At this moment, he suddenly heard the unique roars of the Abyss Devils coming from afar. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt the sand under his feet tremble due to the countless demons stepping on the ground. The unique roars of the Abyss Dimensional Rift's demons rose and fell, coordinating with the trembling sand under Lin Yuan's feet. He immediately knew that a large number of demons had arrived outside the valley. The roars of the demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift already had the effect of intimidating one's spirit. The roars of some high-level demons also had the effect of a mental attack. Such a complex and massive demon roar reminded Lin Yuan of the insect sea that had surged out of the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift outside Millstone Town and let out insect cries. However, the roar of the evil demons in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was far more powerful than the alien insects in the insect sea. Moreover, even the individual strength of the Class 3 alien insects that appeared in the peak Class 1 insect tide was far inferior to the most ordinary Class 3 demons. However, Lin Yuan's strength and the teammates around him were no longer the same as before. The powerful fire element in the Scarlet Flame Vortex not only attracted the attention of the human adventurers, but also attracted the attention of the human adventurers. At the same time, it also attracted the demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. There were many adventurers in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Apart from searching for fire element spiritual ingredients, most of them treated killing demons as a form of income. In addition, during this period of time, Shirsu, who was known as the Working Emperor, Lin Yuan, and the Dragon Gate Guild Club members were training in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. As a result, the number of high-level demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had been greatly reduced. However, looking at the current situation, it was likely that the number of demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had decreased significantly. Apart from the demons that were still surging out from the Abyss World Hub of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, most of the remaining demons should have gathered outside the valley. There were a total of 2 ways for the dimensional demons to increase their strength. The first was to rely on the complex genetic model in their bodies to devour the flesh and blood of the opposing demons and the corpses of the demons that died in battle to increase their strength. The other method was to devour fire element spiritual ingredients and absorb the large amount of fire element energy in the Abyss Dimensional Rift to increase their combat strength. The Abyss world that the Abyss Dimensional Rift was connected to was a world filled with fire elements. Therefore, the demons' attributes were almost all fire element. It could be imagined just how attractive the fire-attributed energy in the huge flame vortex was to the abyssal demons. When Lin Yuan, Long Tao, Shi Su, Fang Duo, Zhao Xiaochun, and Shen Hongfeng arrived at the entrance of the valley, Lin Yuan found that the endless demons had surrounded the entrance of the valley. The adventurers who had been dragged to the entrance of the valley by the source sand had also rushed into the valley. These adventurers had used all their resources and strength to set up fortifications at the valley entrance. Chapter 280. Upon seeing this, Long Tao looked at Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. Even if you don't join the Dragon Gate Guild Club, why don't we form a temporary team and get through this together?" After Lin Yuan nodded, Long Tao turned to Shi Su and said, "In a while, Fang Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun will be the main attackers. You'll be in charge of supporting us from the side." Shi Su glanced at Long Tao unhappily. "Do I need you to tell me that?" Lin Yuan's eyes were brimming with a strong fighting spirit. Among such a large number of demons, a large portion of them were Tier 2 demons. However, the number of Level 3 demons was not small, and there were even Level 4 demons among them. The demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift didn't rely on numbers to win. Instead, they relied on their individual strength. Therefore, every demon that could survive the Abyss Dimensional Rift was considered an elite unit. If he were to rely on his own strength now, he would not be able to deal with these demons. However, with the Radiance 100 sequence members like Long Tao, Fang Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun, the damage to these Class 3 and Class 4 demons was enough. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not intend to take the offensive route in this battle. As a healing type and support type spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan had always been obsessed with output. This was because the output would allow him to have a trump card to protect himself in the face of danger. He could control his own life and death in his own hands. However, in such a large-scale battle, Lin Yuan was considered an all-round spirit chi professional. Naturally, he would determine his position in the battle according to the battle situation. At that moment, Long Tao scanned the boundless demon sea a few times, and his expression changed slightly as he said to Lin Yuan. "When the battle starts in a while, can your quicksand try to sink the flesh of the killed demons into the sea of sand? There are a few devouring demon squads in this sea of demons. If these devouring demons have a large amount of demon flesh and blood, they will become a huge threat." Lin Yuan naturally knew about the Devourer demon. It was a kind of Class 3 demon. Devourer was considered the weakest among demons of the same rank. However, for a short period of time, demon devourers could devour the flesh and blood of other demons to increase their combat power. Although the Devourer demon's combat strength would only increase for a short period of time after devouring the demon's flesh and blood, the Devourer demon's combat strength would still increase. However, after such a large number of demons were killed, the Devourer demon would devour a huge amount of demon flesh and blood, and the threat it posed would be close to that of a Class 5 Diamond Fae. Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Lin Yuan summoned Red Thorn. At this moment, Red Thorn was already a size bigger than before. Red Thorn's mouth of Relinquish had also become bigger, and the 12 giant mouths on the mouth of Relinquish had also become sharper. As these huge teeth chewed, they greatly increased red thorn's digestive ability. Red thorn's ortet's vines had also changed. Red thorn's ortet's vines were no longer as thin and long as before. However, the vines of red thorn's ortet were sharper and thicker. Since red thorn had chosen to use child ramets and ramets to spread out a sea of flowers, red thorn's broodmother no longer needed to increase its attack range. These child ramets and ramets were red thorn's sharpest claws and teeth. Therefore, red thorn had compressed its ortet's combat power to within 3 meters. Such a change made red thorn's ortet's combat power much stronger than before. In the process of devouring dimensional lifeforms' flesh and blood, red thorn's intelligence was also slowly growing. Red thorn's current evolution method also had its own selfish motives. While red thorn was evolving according to the evolution direction given by Lin Yuan, its weak intelligence also hoped that it could better protect Lin Yuan. Just like now, after red thorn was summoned, its smooth vine without any thorns had already wrapped around Lin Yuan's wrist. It conveyed intimacy and dependence to Lin Yuan. The acid corrosion queen bee also flew out of red thorn's mouth of relinquish and landed on the smooth vine that was wrapped around Lin Yuan's wrist, jumping eagerly. The acid corrosion queen bee's action seemed to be competing for red thorn's favor, but it was ruthlessly thrown off the smooth vine by red thorn. However, the acid corrosion queen bee still surrounded red thorn and fawned on it. This was the true portrayal of a bootlicker like Ben Go. After devouring a lot of demon flesh over the past month, red thorn was almost completely immune to the burning acidity of demon flesh. At the same time, he was also quite resistant to the withering characteristics of the devil flame. Even the child ramets and ramets produced by red thorn's mother ramets carried the characteristics inherited from red thorn's mother ramets. The flesh and blood of the massive sea of demons were the best nutrients for red thorn to raise its strength. Previously, outside of Millstone Town, the Pinnacle Class One-Dimensional Rifts Insect Tide had allowed red thorn to increase its grade and even upgrade its quality to epic. For example, the energy contained in the dead dimensional lifeform's flesh stored in the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box could not be compared to the energy contained in the flesh that had just died in a fresh state. The energy contained in the flesh and blood of these recently dead dimensional creatures could quickly help red thorn evolve and improve its quality. Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Lin Yuan replied calmly. "Just leave the flesh and blood of these dead demons to me." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words and seeing Lin Yuan summon that strange plant Fei, Long Tao couldn't help but be a little surprised. Everyone knew that the abyss-dimensional lifeforms, demons, could restrain plant-type Feis. However, Black actually wanted to use this strange plant to devour the flesh and blood of those dead demons. Not to mention that the burning characteristics of the demon flesh and blood would cause damage to plants. However, could this strange plant really devour the massive amount of demon flesh and blood that would be left behind after the battle started? A few Pinnacle Class 4 demons stood at the forefront of this sea of demons. Lin Yuan found that most of these Pinnacle Class 4 demons had evolved from Horn Demon's genetic model. However, these Pinnacle Class 4 demons that had evolved from Horn Demons had a certain difference in appearance. This meant that the Horn Demon's genetic model had deviated from Class 2 to Class 4. However, these deviations allowed these Pinnacle Class 4 demons to have their own attack methods. As these Pinnacle Class 4 demons roared, the massive demon army seemed to have received some orders and quickly rushed toward the human adventurers in the valley. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.